episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Hansen, joined by Jeff Marchiafava.
Hey!
Daniel Tack.
Hey, I'm here again.
Are you happy to be here?
I gotta tell you, we have a real big show today, and I'm really excited about that.
I'm excited to have Matt Miller on this podcast, too.
Big show.
Big show!
Big show.
Hell of a show, everybody. Here's why it is a big show. We're talking about Into the Breach, a new tactics game that Miller's red hot on. Should be fun. Then we're mopping up feces on aisle 6. We're talking about Kingdom Come Deliverance and Metal Gear Survive. Look, you're not going to save it until we get there.
Wow.
Look, we promised that we would get the final verdict on both of these games. Jeffem and Serial have poured a lot of time into each. Jeffem maybe more than any human being has ever played any game. He's been playing Kingdom Come Deliverance, so we're going to weigh in on exactly what that game has to offer people. Then after that, we're getting Kyle in talking about some mobile games maybe, and he's also been playing Moss on PlayStation VR. There's definitely that subset of people. Yeah, a little cute mouse. But there's people that write in and say, like, hey, you guys should talk about more VR games. Yeah. Where's the VR love? Here's a little game starring a mouse. A love right there. Let's talk about it. Some other things along the way. Then we have some great community emails, some really good ones, Dan.
I hope so.
Some really good ones. Big show. Big show. Because
real big show.
The back half of the show, we have a special guest Skyping in, Jordan Thomas from the Question Studio. Jordan Thomas, maybe not a household name, but after this interview, households are going to be buzzing, Jeffem. Because, that's right, they're working on a new game called the Blackout Club, which the easy pitch is Left 4 Dead meets Stranger Things. Okay. So it's a co-op, neighborhood-based, bizarre, some would say Lovecraftian Van Tag experience.
There's a lot of those these days.
But there's a lot of development talent on that team, including Jordan Thomas, who's leading the project. He worked on all 3 Bioshocks. He was the director of Bioshock 2. So we talk about the crazy amount of love that game still gets. Like, someone just wrote into the podcast not that long ago saying, like, why don't you give more credit to Bioshock 2? He also was a consultant on both the South Park RPGs, so worked a lot with Matt and Trey. Yeah, but he also goes back to, like, working on Thief 3. He worked on the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone game. He's been all over the place.
Can we just skip right to that interview? It sounds
You know what? Let's go ahead and play it right now. No, but stay tuned for that. It's a good time.
That sounds like the kind of person you want on a really big show.
That's right, Miller. And that's what we...
See, I think Miller gets the big show thing.
Hell yeah, he gets it. You know, big show, big time, big fun time. This Saturday, by the way, at Fulton Brewery in downtown Minneapolis. Jeff, what's going on there?
We're having a huge party for 300 issues.
We're going to allow only 300 people in the door. That's not true. But for Game Informer's 300th issue, we're going to be at Fulton Brewery, downtown Minneapolis. That's March 3rd. So if you're listening to this in time, we encourage you to come on down. It's free. We have no idea what the crowd's going to be like. It could be overflowing. It could just be Andy McNamara and I. I have no idea. So please come down, say hi, come talk in.
Andy Compton.
Please do. It'll be a good time. We're going to be revealing the next wave of covers for our 300th issue, Dan Tech.
Yeah, we are going to.
We worked really hard on this issue of the magazine. I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Absolutely. You know what else is cool? Into the Breach.
Oh, man. That's a great game.
Miller, it's very exciting. Like, you know, you never know. I think you were playing this game at home, and then you came into the office buzzing. Yeah. It's so fun to see a person reviewing a game come into the office like, whoa, we got a live one here. Like, you were so excited. You get this game, what, 925?
I did. It's a follow-up from Subset Games. Their previous game is FTL. A lot of people played FTL, right? I mean, that's kind of everybody knows that game, right? You either played it or you've seen it, right? The ship with the little aliens running around.
Yeah.
You die a lot. You start over. That's the deal.
It's popular all over the world.
It is. So this is the next game from that small independent studio, and they maintain the structure of multiple playthroughs, that kind of what we call roguelite experience of going through, seeing how far you can get, maybe finishing a playthrough, unlocking some stuff, and then kind of going through again and again and again. Now, to have that work, the actual gameplay of any given playthrough has to be a lot of fun. And it is in this case, although it is very different from FTL in that gameplay. So the structure, the broad structure, the sort of top level structure is what you like about FTL. But the gameplay, instead of it being the fighting the alien ships and boarding the ships and all that kind of stuff, it's instead a grid-based tactics game that has a lot in common, weirdly, with chess.
Really?
Yeah. Some people say, you guys have played it, right? Like it has some of that.
I don't think I'd say it's like chess exactly.
Really?
It's definitely like, you know, very tactical and stuff, but not. I don't draw the same conclusion, I guess.
Would you go with an Advance Wars reference before a chess reference, Dantek?
No, it's certainly way different than Advance Wars 2. I mean, on the surface, like on the previews and stuff, it's like, oh, this is going to be like Advance Wars, but after playing, a significant amount of it, not so much as chess. I've tried to like break it down to see like what it is underneath all the graphics and systems. It's just like, what is this? It feels more like a Tetris to me almost. I know it sounds absurd, but like.
Arranging Tetris. I will say this in defense of trying to mark these strange comparisons is that it is not exactly what it appears to be. Right. To explain my chess analogy, it's that in any given turn of Into the Breach, you've got like an 8x8 grid. You've got 3 mechs that you're running around with. You're taking them back in time. You're trying to save the world from these kaiju monsters that are going to kill everybody.
Okay.
And those mechs are on the board in particular spaces, and the monsters are on the board in particular spaces. And in any given turn, it feels to me like you're trying to prevent checkmate. That's the idea.
And right? Checkmate means damaging the buildings and the
I mean, if in just 1 or 2 turns, I think it's fair to say, if you just didn't do anything, it's game over, right? Like, the monsters will show up, they'll blow up the buildings, humanity's destroyed, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And then it's time to start a new playthrough. And so on any given turn, you're looking at the board like a puzzle, right? Which I don't know if I'll be interested to hear your comparison to Tetris, but that's how I see it, is that on that turn, it's this puzzle to solve. How do I make sure that I take as little damage to my units as possible? I make sure the buildings, the grid, doesn't take damage, because that's what's going to kind of carry over from one battle to the next. And I'm pushing and pulling and damaging enemies. I'm moving them into environmental effects on the board, all to try. Your goal isn't really to defeat the monsters; it's to hold off the monsters
by killing them.
And not necessarily, because at the end there's a countdown, or throughout the game there's a countdown going of usually 5 turns. And when those turns are over, you're just it's just done. The monsters disappear, and you win.
And we should note that the enemy turns, or what they're going to do on their next turn, is always laid out. So you know exactly what they're attacking and how they're attacking it.
Like in a Final Fantasy X style way, where it says on the bottom of the screen? Or?
It's much more specific and central to the gameplay than that. Like, at the beginning of the turn, the monsters, or the end of the previous turn, depending on how you think about it, the monsters move, they get in place, and you see on the grid, okay, this monster is going to hit these spaces
for this amount of damage.
Oh, wow, okay.
And inflict this environmental effect here, right? Everything is meticulously expressed so that you can, cover your mouse around the board, look at all the different units, and really understand exactly what is going to happen.
It's a lesson in clarity and design. Just overall stripping everything down, just communicate effectively to the player.
It is, and when you start, I argue in my review of the game that the other thing that it does really well is that immediately you understand it. You're not good at it immediately, but you get what's going on right away. You can play this game for literally, like, in the first battle, the first 2 minutes. You can kind of understand the fundamentals. None of the numbers are big. Nobody has like, this guy has 7,300 hit points and this guy has 14,000. It's not like that. This guy has 3 hit points.
Love it.
This other guy has 2. Your attack will do 2 damage. And so you can understand what's happening right away. So it all begins to come back to the singular turn in front of you and the tactical decisions you're going to make to solve that puzzle of not having things fall apart.
So, Jeff, can you help me understand what's transcendent about this game? Like, it seems like it's a well-designed little tactics game. I feel like there have been a lot of those games released. What do you think is special about this one, Jeff?
That moment-to-moment gameplay that Miller was just talking about, where every turn it is this puzzle of, okay, how am I going to stop them from completely wrecking me? And you have 3 characters with 3 abilities. Each one can only move a certain amount. And every time you're puzzling out, okay, if I move this guy here, I can nudge him, and then his attack is going to hit that enemy, and then I'll move this guy, and there's an environmental attack that's happening here, and you kind of end up feeling like a genius every turn when you actually puzzle it all out, and it's like, okay, I survived for a turn, and then more enemies spawn up, and everybody moves around, and they cast a web on one character, and then he's stuck, and so you have to figure out how you're going to free him next time, and it's that constant, moving it forward one step and trying to survive just one more turn.
This sounds hard.
Well, that's the other thing that I think that the game does particularly well is cater itself to almost any player. I would be happy to put this game in front of somebody who has never played a video game and expect that they would be able to grasp it and find success with it.
Just an alien landing on Earth.
An alien landing on Earth and be like, here, why don't Kaiju Monster, why don't you try Into the Breach so you can empathize with humanity? No, I mean, the difficulty settings are really, really well balanced so that you can set it on easy. And it's not like the developer has penalized you for playing on easy. In fact, I strongly recommend people play it on easy at first.
Really?
Most games, I think, we as a organization say, play it on the setting that the developer sets as default, which is normal, right? Like, that's the way to really enjoy the game. Here, I think it's a different philosophy. The developers have set up difficulty settings that are saying, you know what, like, the priority here should be you having fun, right? And so, yes, there is a way to indicate your mastery in that playing on the harder difficulties, you get a higher score, and that's how you kind of show off or whatever. But you put it on easy, and you can get almost all the unlocks on easy. You can, each playthrough you're completing achievements, and those achievements give you points that you can buy new mech squads. The new mech squads play completely differently from the last one. So even if you do get to a point of a certain level of mastery over the play experience, all of a sudden you're back at the beginning, you have a new squad that just doesn't play like the one you just played. So there's this constant sense of novelty and discovery as you're moving through multiple playthroughs.
Yeah.
And we should also note that there are 4 islands that you're going through. Each one has, like half a dozen missions that you'll play or whatever. But after you do 2, you can go to the final mission at any point.
So you're
after that.
And just so buying time until you're feeling ready to good to go.
Well,
point of no return.
It's more like, how far can I push it? Can I do another island? Because they'll get increasingly difficult as you go.
Yeah.
And so that's another way that you kind of self-adjust the difficulty of this mech squad is a little weird and I'm not doing great, so I've done 2 islands, I can just skip ahead and finish it.
And it's balanced to how many islands you've completed. So not only are you catering your own difficulty, but you're also adjusting your own session length, right? Like, how long do I want to play this game and have a satisfying full playthrough?
Yeah.
I'll just do 2 islands and then do the last fight and see if I win, and that'll be great.
Yeah. Dantak, Lord of Video Games,
Sure.
Looks down on us mortals. Do you agree with this playing on easy thing?
I think definitely that's a... First of all, I want to say, I'm extremely reticent to say that I could give it to anybody who doesn't play games and have them pick up on it. I think it's a challenge. And yes, I do like how you can, and you probably should, experience it on easy at first.
Okay.
And they don't take away from it, as you said, just like FGL, actually. One of the great ways to get the achievements and unlocks in FGL is to play on easy, just to get the stuff. And you can do that here too, which is nice, but it's not easy, I don't think, necessarily.
It's always a puzzling challenge.
And it's the more I think about it, the more I play it, the more, again,
Professor Oak, where's my Pokemon?
now it might seem really weird, but to me, it's almost like a puzzle game. Like, if they were just colored blocks on the screen, they weren't, this is a mech, this is a glove. It would be like, yes, I need to get... It's all about positioning. It really is at the fundamental level, especially if you're going to challenge the harder difficulties, figuring out how to twist your pieces, right? So that one is facing here and one of them shooting here. And it's very puzzle-esque, despite having that, it's definitely a strategy tactical game too, but it's not a game where you're like, I got to get more HPs, get this new sword, and I got to get new stuff like that. It's very... bolt-on moves. This move does that, this move does this unit does this. And, your job is to figure out how to make it all happen at the end of that turn.
So the discussion internally is like Leo's really into it. JB played a fair amount. He's into it. There's a certain crowd that considers this game, I think, not to be hyperbolic, take words out of context, Miller, but the second coming of Christ. And then Dan Tack was like, it's cool in a little bit.
I thought it was good.
Okay. Do you see any faults here?
So some of the, I think, in terms of longevity, I think it might have a little less than FTL, and that depends. There's ways to make it more longevity for you, like with random squads and customized squads, but like, I'm not sure if sort of less variance in the end encounter. I guess there's only like the one, and I guess it's when you got there in FTL and at the end, usually you have a different sort of makeup to tackle it. Now you sort of know exactly what to expect. I don't know if that it's not a detractor. I just don't know if it's going to have the hooks for a really long haul, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a bite-sized strategy game, right? Like you get in there, this is really cool, and you enjoy it. I just don't know if it's going to keep people playing as long as FTL did.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a tough bar to clear.
It is a tough bar to clear. I mean, FTL has also came to us from a different time in the indie game movement, but I do really feel like this is a better game. I think Sunset Games has improved its craft and has learned some lessons from what worked and what didn't work about FTL. I'd agree with you, Dan, that there is the danger of some of the longevity potentially being lost for some players who put in hundreds of hours with the game. But I think that there's so many different squad combos and so many achievements to chase that for the majority of players,
Okay, you tell me, what the hell is Pikachu doing over
somewhere
here? I mean, it's
like
like you walked into that.
10 hours to 100 hours. That sweet spot is totally solid, and that entire time you will
I'm doing something, because what the hell is that exploding out of the front of
new
him?
challenges to surmount. I also think I've always been in the camp. I know some people really love that last boss fight in FTL. I've always thought it's terrible.
Wow.
I just don't like the way that it demands very particular strategies that you spend the entire game sort of like planning towards. Okay, am I going to use the transporter strategy, or am I going to use like I didn't like that about the game, where you would kind of get to a certain point in the game and be like, it's not even worth trying to keep going because my one guy's dead. I'm just going to get to the final boss. It's going to be over.
Yeah.
This game does not have that quality about its end game loop. It is a challenging and interesting fight at the end, and you're right there. I kind of wish there was maybe a little bit more variance in what that fight was.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the early things that they attempt to patch with the game. That said, there is the fight itself is challenging, but without being absolutely punishing. It's very reasonable that if you're like being successful throughout your playthrough, that when you can get to that final boss or final fight, you're not really a boss, there's a decent chance you can win it.
Yeah.
And I like that people who devote the energy and devote the time to the game are going to be able to have that complete experience consistently.
Let's get to the core of it here, Jeff. Which enemy is the biggest dick in this game?
That's hard to say, but there is one kind of, I guess they're all bugs, but one of them in particular shoots a spider web that has a spider inside of it, except it shoots off webs in the 4 directions that will also lock down whatever you have there.
Oh, so like traps him in the webs?
Yeah, and for some reason I didn't run into that guy in my first couple playthroughs, and then I bumped it down to easy and was like, okay, I'm going to do 4 worlds this time. And I realized that my cardinal mistake that I've been making all this time is I start all my characters really close to each other, and you cannot do that when that guy's out there, because he'll lock down 2 of them, and then you're just totally screwed.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
but I don't want to make it sound like that is, frustrating or game breaking. It's another thing that you learn to work around. And once I stopped being an idiot and putting my characters so close together, I was able to overcome that and kind of.
Does it have like an XCOM level of just knowing and hating every single unit you're going up against? Like, oh, this son of a gun again.
I don't know if XCOM was especially good at that.
Yeah.
Part of that was the visuals in XCOM. I just kind of hated those guys. I think what this game does well, especially because you will, as you play, you'll find yourself desiring. You're going to get to a point that you can consistently like play through easy and just wreck. Right? I mean, that's going to happen, and then you're going to move up to normal, eventually to hard, and in those higher difficulties, the sense of looking at the board and like spending. Sometimes I mean, I don't know about you guys and how you play this game, but for me, I literally will like sit there and stare for like 3 minutes, one turn,
One bead of sweat,
with just one bead of sweat traveling down, and just being like, I will not let this building fall. Like I am getting that secondary objective, and so I'll like sit there and try to figure it out again because I'm kind of coming at it as like a puzzle, and there does come a point, especially after you've made what you didn't know was a mistake, like a turn or two before. Like maybe you put a guy over in a corner and you shouldn't have, or something like that. But you get to those points where it's like, it's not possible.
Yeah.
Like either that building's going down or the train's getting blown up. And one of those two things is happening. And either way, it's gonna there's gonna be a little like word bubble that pops up where the head of the island says like, "Oh man, that building it stood for hundreds of years. That's too bad." You know, like you get those moments where you have to come face to face with the necessity of sacrifice. And I don't know. I think that's really cool. It's exciting to be intense, to be in those moments and have to make those calls and to not know exactly how it's going to shake out and how it's going to affect your subsequent playthrough.
Yeah, for sure. So PC only right now. Keyboard and mouse only.
Yeah.
No gamepad support.
Yep.
But, I mean, you guys were even saying, like, this seems so easy to get on iOS at some point and other systems at some point. Switch is right there.
I'd be surprised if we don't see it on touch devices at some point. I think a console port, like a full console port, would involve a pretty aggressive redesign of controls and things like that. So yeah. In short, I wouldn't be, there's sometimes games like this that come out first on PC that you just like, whatever, I'll just wait till it's on PS4. You think you're going to be waiting a while, if at all. I think you should get this game now and play it on PC. It's not going to tax your system. If you have a computer, it is probably going to play this game.
There we go. Into the breach, everybody.
It's real good.
Thanks, Miller. You want to give yourself a high five?
I'll do it.
Okay, great.
Right now?
Yeah.
You ready?
Please.
Okay.
Hey, Serial Vasquez. Welcome.
Hi.
Honor to have you.
That was smooth.
I'm so happy you're here so that Jeffem can talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Absolutely. Jeffem would not talk about it without me here for some reason.
Jeffem, what is your hour count on Kingdom Come Deliverance? The game we talked about a couple weeks ago. It's the open world, old school-ish medieval RPG.
Over 100.
Over 100 hours. And after all that time, you take that number and then you boil it down to one review score number. What is that score?
Well, that's kind of misleading, but it's a 5.75.
The review score is misleading.
If you just take it by the number.
This is one of those that you should read the full review for.
Yes.
Or you can just listen to this podcast and what you're about to say right now.
We're going to talk about it right now.
Okay, so bugs, number one?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is the driving force behind that score, for sure. Because I like a lot of what the game does beyond that.
Yeah.
But it was so broken, and I lost so many hours of progress to bugs and hard crashes and everything else. It's like, how do you score that? How do you recommend a game like that?
Yeah.
That is so profoundly broken.
How did it make it through CERT, do you think? What's going on there? Isn't it a wild ride?
Is that a process at this point anymore on consoles?
No, I don't know.
And we should note off the bat that I was playing the Xbox version.
Right.
So other versions may be better, PC may be more functional, but based on the forum posts that I was looking through, when I was running into my own bugs, a lot of people have had problems, some even worse than me.
And to be specific, were you 1X?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's no sort of like early access moniker anywhere on any of these platforms. It is a fully released game. Or is it in early access?
I think it's just fully released.
It is super duper 100% released. So what was the most damning bug? What was the moment where you were the closest to jumping out of Game Informer's window?
Well, I was at home at the time.
Perfect.
And I lost 4 hours to a bug that disabled saving of any kind. and so it was kind of a slow train wreck of, I realized, after a while that the game wasn't saving during the missions that I was doing, which sometimes it's kind of stingy with its checkpoints anyway, because it has auto save points during missions.
I thought you needed to save your schnapps.
You do if you want to save it yourself manually.
Okay.
So if you want to manually save it, you have to drink a potion, which you can only carry 3 at a time, and they're very expensive, and they make you drunk when you drink them.
Always fun.
Or you can go to an inn and rent a room and sleep for the night.
Yeah.
Which is what you end up doing all the time in order to safeguard your progress as you're playing.
And so you're just running from bed to bed and nothing was triggering?
So at that point, I was doing a series of missions, and it wasn't saving for a while, and I didn't think too much of it at that point until it finally dawned on me that, like, hey, these objectives are ticking off, and it's not giving me the save message sign. And so then I went to my home to save and sleep, and it didn't say anything there either. And so I tried a different one, and then started looking up, problems, and then I was like, okay, I'll just use my Savior schnapps, which I was trying not to use, frivolously because they're so expensive, and that was grayed out in the menu, and I couldn't use that either. And there's a save option on the main menu, which also uses your schnapps when you save it that way, but it was also grayed out, and it said you cannot save during this activity. So I thought, okay, well, maybe it's the mission that I'm on. So I continued doing it, except I wasn't checking off objectives anymore. I was going through entire missions at that point. And it's an endless series of missions. And so I was like 3 hours at that point. I was like, okay, well, maybe there was a side mission that I had started, and it's just running in the background, and that's screwing everything up. So I did a couple side missions, and at some point, at that point, it's like, the longer I keep playing, the more I'm just going to have to eat it when I finally reload my last save. And so it was 3:30 in the morning at this point, and my last save was from 11:30, and I just had to kiss it goodbye.
Mwah. Okay, what about for people that will be listening to this podcast a year and a half down the road, time traveling, right? And they're like, maybe if it's patched up, is there the potential of having a cool experience here?
Yeah, it's cool. It is still challenging and slow, but in a way that I think works and makes for an interesting experience. Because the whole idea of it is it's an open world, Skyrim style RPG, but without the magic and rooted in our actual real world history.
Yeah.
And so it tries to put you in what life would be like as a peasant in the medieval world.
Little Henry!
Yeah, and so go figure, that's not the most exciting world. And
set-piece moments are not just flowing over you.
It tries to do some set-piece moments, and they turn out really... That had some of the biggest problems for me.
Turn the butter, Henry!
But yeah, so your progress, as a character and kind of in combat and your other skills is slow. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. If the premise of the game and the setting, and you like that kind of history, if all that speaks to you, then it's worth devoting the time to progressing through it.
And a larger story goes some places?
Yeah, it does. And I would say that it does a better job with its actual campaign storytelling than any Elder Scrolls game has before, because for as much as I love all those games, I never played them for the story, and your character is always an empty vessel, who's predestined for greatness. And in this one, you are playing a very specific character. They have lots of cutscenes that kind of lay everything out, and it's, some of the characters are fictional, but it's kind of following historical events.
Okay.
And so that was all really interesting to me. Some of the missions that you go on get really weird.
Let's go. How weird?
At one point, I accidentally had an orgy with a priest.
Accidentally?
Yes, I didn't know it was going to happen.
Accident. All orgies.
And by the point it happened, there was no turning back. But that was on the night that I lost 4 hours of progress, so that was washed away. And I made
the sins of that priest.
Yep, I made different decisions when I played through it the second time.
Yeah, I think I said, I don't know, Kotaku wrote their article where it's like, it's tough not to F people in that game. Is it kind of a Mass Effect style thing? We're just having a conversation, all of a sudden it's like, wait, our clothes are falling off.
I I think it is that moment specifically where you don't realize that it's going to lead to that. But otherwise, I wasn't effing anybody else accidentally. So
it's so tough. I mean, we talked about it a couple weeks ago on the podcast, and it seemed like we talked a little while about it. Just feels like a cult classic in the making. Do you feel like that holds true? Are there going to be a large swath of fans for this game for years and years because it's just such a unique thing?
Sure, I think there are going to be those fans, but you would have to be blind to excuse the amount of problems. Unless, some people may not have problems. I wrote a thing on the save feature earlier that they just need a system that lets you save at any time. And PC Modders added that pretty much immediately after its release.
Yeah.
And some people in the comments section of that said that they weren't running into problems, which I suspect some of them was because they haven't played as much, because my first 10 hours were actually pretty good.
Oh,
and one of my earliest impressions was, this is like the Elder Scrolls games, but less buggy. And that totally flipped on its head later on.
Wow.
Kind of the further you get, you can tell the polish really ran out.
It felt like you were scared to play it every time.
Yes.
It's not just save bugs. Like, can you explain some other things besides just the save bugs?
I mean, getting stuck in random geometry. I got stuck in bushes. My horse got stuck on a rock, and then when I got off the horse, I got stuck on the rock, and the horse kind of crushed me because the collision with your horse, especially if he comes up anywhere near you, it hurts you. And so I kind of just got stuck there and immediately died.
Hey, that's the priest job, right, sir?
I had entire quest lines break down where they were just broken and I couldn't progress anymore, so you have to reload on those. I had one in particular that broke because I had to talk to a guy and he was with a guard, an NPC guard, and I had to talk to him alone. But that guard was with him the entire time. And so at night, they were supposed to go to their room in the inn to sleep, except only the guard was going there because there was an old man sleeping in the other bed. And so that didn't bother the guard, apparently. But so when I talked to the guy that I was supposed to talk to, he said, "Are you Carl by any chance?" And the guy's name is Carl, so he said yes. And my guy said, "Great, I can't wait to talk to you." And then the conversation ended, and there wasn't any option to speak to him anymore, and the objective was just broken from that point
on. You're just slowly looking around the room.
Yeah, the only option was to pickpocket him at that point.
Well, okay.
But the reason it was broken was because that old guy was an NPC from a previous quest that had also broken. Because you can ask him for help to kind of make your way through a cave full of bandits.
Yeah.
But if you do that, he charges in blindly and immediately gets killed anyway. And so I went through it. I actually managed to get through it with him alive, but then after the cutscene, it went to an infinite loading screen.
Yeah.
So that save was also just broken, and the only way I got through it was by not talking to him in the first place and leaving him in the tavern. But that broke the mission after that because he just hung around the tavern for forever at that point and continued to go to bed or go to sleep in that one bed, which stopped the other guy from going in there, and that broke that quest. So they kind of, sometimes it compounds and screws things up in weird ways that you can't predict. And so again, the solution is to always be saving your progress as best as you can.
Which is limited.
Yes.
Holy Lord, maybe Kingdom don't come yet. Yeah. This is the tough thing. It's like, what are we going to do? Check back on this game in a couple of years and be like, okay, now it's okay, people. But maybe.
I really hope they're able to fix it faster than that.
Yeah.
And like I said, there are problems with just the way that the AI acts sometimes too.
Yeah.
And there are so many problems that, I can't recommend it to anyone at this point. I mean, I guess if you're super patient and it interests you, just know what you're getting into. Because like I said, I played for over 100 hours. I don't even want to guess at how much progress I lost. Because literally almost every single time where I thought I don't have to save in between these two objectives, something would go wrong and I'd get stuck and I'd lose that save and feel like an idiot for, not taking the minute and a half to fast travel because the fast travel system isn't actually that fast. You have to watch your icon go, and so, but it's worth it to just go and save if the game doesn't break and disable saving as well.
It's okay, Jeff. You're done.
Yeah.
Shh, it's okay. Shh.
It is disappointing because, like I said, The story was interesting to me. I liked the idea. I don't understand how we don't have more games that are set in an actual real-world historical setting and try and let you experience that. And as a role-playing game, that is a super interesting premise.
Okay, Jeffem, I wish you the best. I wish you can play so much Into the Breach that your mind just explodes and your heart melts.
Yeah, it was a nice palate cleanser over the night.
God! Speaking of cleansing palates for the listeners and viewers, Sergio Vasquez, Metal Gear Survive.
Yeah.
Another one we talked a little bit about on the podcast and said, let's wait for the final verdict. Now you've seen credits roll.
Yep, and I played several more hours after that.
Wow, okay, very impressive. What is your final verdict on Metal Gear Survive?
Are you looking for a score?
Give me that score, dude.
A 6. I gave it a 6.
Okay, why did it get a 6? How did it change? Because I think it was last week, I guess, when we talked about it, I think we're both kind of on the same page of like, there's something here. It's opaque. It's confusing. I'm digging through the dirt trying to find an interesting game in this mess.
Mm-hmm.
Did you just keep digging for your entire time playing
I think my impression is sort of like a more... I feel like it is similar, but it feels like more grounded in the idea of just... I think the game wants you to engage with loops that I don't think are very interesting. The more you do them. So I think that there has been, before release, it was mostly like, screw Konami, they're like terrible, I can't believe this product even exists.
Right.
And I think at this point, there's sort of been a little bit of backlash of like, this game's actually pretty cool. And I to some degree, I see that game of just, here's a cool co-op thing where you can play, Metal Gear Solid 5 with your friends and sort of fend off waves of zombies, and the single player is actually like feels fun, and the detail, which is sort of the dust area where you have to sort of keep track of your oxygen and your running is very limited,
extremely limited.
Right, so you basically run for like 10 seconds and then you're done. It like that part I think feels good, right? In a way that it's like the shooting is all like everything works well.
It is Metal Gear Solid 5.
But I think that pretty much all of the periphery systems around that sort of struggle to find they struggle to find the balance of making that stuff feel like an obstacle to overcome and just sort of making them overbearing. So
it just becomes not fun to play again.
Yeah. So like they have this base building mechanic, which I think some people like. I'm not a big base building guy in general, but like there's interesting stuff where eventually you start cultivating farms and you can capture animals. So like right in my current base, I have like a bear and like a couple of zebras. It's cute, and it's weird because they at first they just fed me milk. Like they would give you like a regular supply of milk, but then eventually they started giving me meat, and I'm not sure where that meat comes from because it's the sheep and the bears remain in their cages, but meat suddenly appears. I'm not sure how that happens. But so by the time you get that stuff up and running, you only have like 6 crew members. By the end of the game, I really only had like 6 crew members and sort of like the beginnings of a base. And then it says, okay, now you can play this game for as long as you want. Keep building up your
stay in DT forever.
Right? Like, well, because they at the end of the campaign they sort of tease out another thread. It's like maybe if you keep playing, you like this other thing might happen.
Okay.
I don't want to spoil what it is, but so basically, like once you beat the game, your loop is basically like sleep for 12 hours. And then wake up and have a bunch of missions happen, like appear to you from your crew members.
Yeah.
So if you're just looking for sort of a regular single player game, there's like those systems feel underdeveloped by the time you finish it. And so if you want to keep engaging with those systems, all you really have to do is just sleep for 12 hours, which drains a lot of your hunger and thirst, and wait for randomly generated missions to basically pop up and give you more stuff. And that's sort of the other problem, is that this game's rewards are basically just more materials, and there is gear, like there is rare gear that you get from completing co-op stages, but even that stuff drops broken, and so you have to spend resources to fix them. So they deteriorate very quickly, and the amount of resources you have is super expensive. To maintain them is super expensive, to the point where I saw, okay, how much is it going to cost to fix this weapon versus to craft another one, and they were almost the same. So just the amount of resources you have to farm just to engage with the fun parts of the game, it just feels so weighted against sort of the idea of just having fun, and more against like just keep doing this loop over and over and over again.
It's such a dickish game. I've cooled on it quite a bit, just trying to play more because I want to like it. I like survival aspects in games. I love Metal Gear Solid 5, but just such a bummer. We're just trying to rescue these dumbass NPCs that are bleeding out all over the place.
Hello, my
After
child.
like 4 tries on this effing thing,
too.
I dragged this NPC who was bleeding out, had them on the teleporter, and it's like, all right, now you got 40 seconds to defend it, and it's just waves of wanderers running around with their heads off, screaming. And so I'm fighting off those guys. Finally do that, clock gets down to 0, and just as the clock gets to 0, it zooms in on the NPC, and they're dead!
Yeah.
I thought it was zooming in because I reached 0.
Yeah.
It was right there. It's just a constant kick of the nuts.
It seems like it feels like it wants to be sort of this game where all these different systems are colliding with each other, but every time they collide, it just feels like it's these systems are colliding just to screw you over, basically. And it never feels like it's off the ground. It feels like you're waiting for the good part to come back. In the story that there's one interesting thread that I mentioned last time. There's like that thread just isn't resolved like with any interesting side effects.
I'm very curious to talk to you about the story, but I don't want to spoil it. We are actually playing it. So if we record and just like talk about the story, and we'll put it at the very, very end of this podcast. There'll be time code on the YouTube or audio version, because I'm very curious just to let her rip on all that stuff.
I mean, do Tack or Devin care?
They're barely awake right now. They don't care.
I think I'll survive.
What do you think about the crazy, like, a lot of people ran with the story. I forget if we posted it on our site or not. That was like, oh, there's a secret Kojima Productions Forever message, and it's like people are reading into Metal Gear Survive and looking for hidden messages the way they look at like what tweets money and stuff. Like, oh, what you really think? And it's just like this weird cult. Do you think there's anything interesting there?
I don't think so, just because I think there is that historical allusion to the Philadelphia experiment of like, here's this weird thing that happened that but like,
so the one is hang on, we're not doing that audio bit for the end right now.
oh,
We'll save that.
okay, I know,
We'll save that.
all right,
But just like, believe in that crazy conspiracy theory about the messages and just say, save us from we love you.
I'm sure at some point they said that. I don't know that I necessarily super buy into the idea of this
It's an easy storyline, but I think that at the very beginning, like the hospital sequence in Venom, there were like posters on the wall. It's like, oh, work for Kojima Productions, like referencing Kojima Productions in this game. Like,
I don't think that stuff is, not there. I'm sure that at some point, like, that'd be a nice thing. We used to work at this other company. I think it'd be nice for us to sort of honor that company in a way, but I don't think this is like saying, help us! Like, I don't think that's what that is.
We'll the worst game with the cry for help.
Exactly.
Here's a crazy thought as well. You had the 2 buttons right here. 2 massive buttons.
We use this as a twist to restore your power back to normal.
There's no Metal Gear game for the next 7 years. Versus another button that says Metal Gear Survive 2 dies. You slam that button. What the heck? Slam that button. Other option.
He's doing it. All right.
There is a core here that I think and I even think they can do it. I think there's a lot of like it seems like at the end of the road. So I think it's a dark how we fix it a lot of first thing I can sense that there was good in you. You were like a naughty good child that didn't know you were kind of a lot of providing more games than anything else. You can have one out of one. But then you separated, and the evil of your spell, the struggle taking place inside of you was now on the outside for all to see, and the darkness overpowered the light.
After that, you were genuine. You were ruthless. You became a living nightmare. You delighted at every moment of it. Didn't even show a shred of decency or mercy. And that's why it has to end like this. You'll have to learn the hard way and know what it feels like to have your life taken away against your will. It's wrong.
At your face that will somewhere tell me but the thing is that Wade
You'll come back someday. As a better person, I hope. I'd like that. Perhaps we'll have a little one-on-one. Well, what?
but it's like get like maybe what can I do to use it from like because I matched a bunch of them. Like it feels like it's still 2 hours away. So like the amount of waiting you have to do, it just feels like it feels like a console version of a mobile like play game.
Oh, what about that crazy save fund thing where you have to pay extra $10?
Basically $10 to buy another character. I don't know what you do that because like at some point you need to just level up all the classes. That's another thing. Like the classes in this game are all
make a pretty good team after
cannot unlock your secondary class until you beat the game in your 30 hours. Which is again, they want you to sort of create like these end game loops, but those loops aren't interesting after the end of the game because what are you building all of these incredible weapons for after you've already beaten the final boss? Like it doesn't. It feels like a pointless end game in a lot of ways.
Ugh.
So which button are you hitting?
I think that probably wait on that for a while. It seems like
Let it rest.
yeah. I just specifically like. I would want them to fix Survive and not sort of turn around a sequel.
Rochester Regional Health.
Yeah,
There's no time to wait.
It's so weird looking at like Konami's lineup of games, what they're working on.
Yeah, you're going to love this.
Pro Evo.
What you're seeing now is my normal state.
And then I was looking at the lineups. Like last year in Japan, they released Yu-Gi-Oh!
This is
Yu-Gi-Oh! There we go. Oh, don't forget, there's Super Bomberman R for the Switch.
This is what is known as a Super Saiyan that is ascended past a Super Saiyan.
Which is a variation of Bomberman,
Or
but it's starring
you can just call this a Super Saiyan 2.
And it seems like it's in arcades only, but like, this is where you're at, Konami? You own Sunset Riders! Do something! Do something!
Are you sure you want us to do
I'll take Sunset Riders Survive. Hell yeah, let's turn it into a battle royale. Side-scrolling battle royale.
How about a mobile game?
I'm listening. I'll take anything. Anything.
It's a cat mobile game, but you have to wait 12 hours. So on it, there is a requirement for
Oh, come on. You want anything? You could demand one thing.
No, I'm kind of in the disillusion at this point that whatever they're going to do, it's not going to be
destroyed.
Forever. They're just rolling out.
I mean, it seems like they don't care anymore at this point. You know, are they taking any feedback to heart about what they're doing? It seems like Pro Evo is a cash cow, and that team knows what they're doing, and so they're fine with that, and everything else feels really premium, really kind of helping to get the most money out of it. What the game
Middle Gear is and I think sort of the prolonged kind of like development version of Metal Gear 5. I think there is a way that they could continue doing Metal Gear. Like the thing I want most out of them is just a remake of the original Metal Gear. Just MSX. Yeah, the MSX Metal Gear. Just round out that story, make it play, rebuild it, and I feel like that feels to me like a way they could just honor sort of their legacy and just say, hey, we are being proud of the story, we're rebuilding gameplay or whatever.
And they'd sell a gajillion. And also, it wouldn't be that big. Even if, if you rebuild that game in 3D and don't expand on it in a huge way, it could be a, couple-hour game. Yeah. Like, that's fine. People just want to see it. Or think about the fact that these loons, they made all those crazy cutscenes from Metal Gear Solid 3 for the Pachinko game in the Fox engine. It looks amazing. And it's like, in theory, that Metal Gear Solid 3 is just sitting around halfway done.
That Pachinko totally sums up Konami at this point for me.
Yeah.
Of like, that's what they want. Gambling that you just continue to spend money on. They'll make cutscenes for that, sure. But do they have the artistic vision or drive to even remake a game that, they actually need people who care about the project to
What is that
just sell it
transformation?
once.
Say it,
Hey, you bring up artistic
turn
vision.
into giant apes.
I mean, if Konami was built by a robot, and I'm not saying it is.
Not yet.
Not yet. But if it is, is it just you're crunching numbers and maybe there's a whole stupid ahead of Konami to the overall industry? Trying to make money.
Now, at the same time,
Try to give me a real challenge.
and look at sort of the transactions, the microtransactions, and just say like, no, yeah, they're they got to make money.
Here goes, Lord Beerus!
Yes, you're back with the too much dance.
Now, give us a Metal Gear Solid 5 remake.
Fine, I'll play with you. Come at me.
The Riders on the Fox engine. It's right there. Okay, so score again.
There's no need to interfere, Lord Beerus.
Big, lousy thing. You want to go with the winner like you made? Step out of your body. I do. Okay, love you, bye. I don't know. Every BS GI show where we get every former editor.
Well then, whenever you're ready.
And just keep clapping and we just slowly rotate down. Wouldn't it be
We're just trying to get out of hosting.
Please
oh my God! Free me from the memory of prison. No, I love it.
I'm sure I'd be a worthy opponent for you, Lord
Editors
Beerus.
are just randomly every.
Oh, right. And it's treat it like.
Fight you, Vegeta. I'm gonna have to get serious.
Yeah, no, we have Kyle here. I wanted to get your take on first figure on Steve.
Powerless like I was before.
Worse than that is from our player. I don't know about worse than that. It's just extra. But seeing it
Maybe I'll quit with the warm-up and start fighting seriously.
Finally, out of the balloon, mobile version. To the point that the UI is on the screen at all times. It's absurd. So
It's really sad. One of the best games of all time, no doubt, right?
Yeah.
And then this is the treatment. Sweet.
Coming right off the heels of
You gotta be
Secret of
kidding
Mana,
me.
which there are maybe some defenders out there of the remake. At least they tried to do something. There was effort, and this is
I forgot about the delegation of separate
bottom of the barrel. Look at you. Seriously, the amount of effort it takes. I know you're not a programmer. To put Secret of Mana, the high quality, it's not so ugly looking UI and
Oh, I'm aware. I'm a constant, I've played
I have the power to become the legendary Super Saiyan.
other disgusting, ports of the man.
And it's such
Because they're great games that I'd love to play.
and some boards play it right. All the Final Fantasy ported over the Steam. I think it'll play it.
I'm talking about the earlier ones with the Chunky Monkey.
You understand that Armand, we need to help you bring the God of Destruction.
Okay, but just think about it. So the number of sales that we get with this now mostly negative review
Surprise! So hopefully people, I'm sure potentially the intent was to get it before people could give it bad reviews, right? Because it's just, hey, it's here.
But the question is,
Chrono Trigger, best game
a year down the road, right?
Yeah.
If they release this one, what are those sales figures looking like versus sales numbers for here's the straight, beautiful Super Nintendo version?
I don't know. I wish we had that version.
Yeah, I know, but hypothetically.
No, don't, Frieza!
The question that you're asking, though, is the piece that there are people who are going to buy that and be turned off, and it does.
Let's say that's a really good point. Yeah, they've already got their phone.
Disappointing. I don't know if they bought it. I guess I'm just trying to figure out what's the incentive to do this right versus just do fair, bottom, close ass. Sell 3 times as much.
I don't know. I think we need to with this is just going to be a low effort point. They didn't promote it at all. It was a surprise release.
Use your Super Saiyan form. mobile.
I'm not going to let you get away with what you've done.
But I imagine that might make it a little bit more work. Right. They promoted them, so like this feels like, you know, let's do this as low effort as possible just to say we done it.
Let Merritt see this.
Because like if they did commit a lot of resources to it,
Would they make a lot of resources?
stop mistaking them for Square Enix.
Somebody hacker made a ROM of this that runs on an emulator in 1997.
You know what I mean? Like, they just loaded that entire ROM. Like, oh, it's probably not this. Well, I guess we have the iOS ROM. Let's use that one instead. Okay.
It's stupid.
I mean, I wonder if the value of the game is not going to come later.
It has
Just
been a
pause it
while.
and say, like, here's the actual move to filters. It's like that just filters and interface stuff that is just really terrible. Interface, yeah. Some of the graphics are kind of misaligned or something.
I can't let Merritt see this.
I can't even. Well, I mean, you just download it.
No, they'll just play it. So much look at the that's not good. There's a YouTube channel. Sorry, it's going to Chrono Trigger. I really love those.
This is why this wasn't on the site.
As a former god, you should know
We
how
got
always
something in our back pocket. You can't say that out loud. People will riot in the streets. The city will tear itself apart. Like, now we can really say fine.
You know, I was hoping for a
around, Piccolo.
version of Chrono Trigger. I'm going to pick up my throat and chuck it at Square. Who's with me?
Ready when you are.
Just go get a 3DS and the DS version of Chrono Trigger.
I was just looking for shit. Like, you know, I played Chrono Trigger for like 2 hours and kind of bounced off of it. And I wanted to finish it, but you know, hearing this version,
Vegeta, huh?
fun to play. Yeah.
Try not to kill me, please.
I don't know. I'll have to dig out my PS copy.
It's been forever since we smart to rewrite their games.
Let's finally talk about GD podcast. GD guys show. Moss VR.
Yeah.
There we go. So you control a little mouse. You run around. You solve puzzles. What are you doing?
Yeah, you're platforming, solving puzzles. There's a little combat in there. It's like simple combat combos. Like you just kind of do like, 3 hits, move out of the way.
I no longer need to absorb you.
It's awesome. Like she looks really great, and her animation is fantastic. Like
You said second best.
I know, and I was because I was thinking of like one black.
Yeah, it's morning, right, buddy?
But it's really good. Like it's really impressive. The animation.
This is good.
Also platformer, and I like the VR implementation. What is it? The VR
It's been a while.
It's like you're reading a storybook, and like on reflective surfaces, you can even see yourself like present in the game.
How about I start this?
Will interact with you sometimes. She'll point to you.
You're not going to make a move.
Allow me. What you're doing is you're really just looking down at her and playing like a third-person platformer.
Looks like you've grown.
And then there is some solve puzzles that are kind of inconsistent, like all motion control.
It's been a while, Piccolo.
Something fun. Is it one of those games that's nice to have if you want to VR?
You seem to have the wrong version.
PSVR experience to have.
It's not a run out and get a PSVR, but absolutely.
Let's do it, Piccolo.
I think so. Yeah.
Cool. Let's see.
I won't hold back.
And Xbox.
Take it easy on you just because you're
Overall, you can positive, but not.
This could be fun.
Game scene is.
Is it time for a rematch?
And I don't know what it's going to take to make Fable Fortunes a choice over games that already are out there. So it's Bama. It's having a difficult time trying to elbow his way.
a super saiyan.
I like to listen to viewer faithful.
Is this really the time to be fighting me?
Flop the cards down. I get good. There's more humor than like that's sort of like the there are mechanics that do make it different. So, or the morality system.
Super Saiyan.
And there's still minor nuances.
Shall I? In the middle of a crowd of people.
Don't you dare turn me into chocolate again, okay?
But you will grow old as you play the game. Unfortunately, you will have all the lives you have on iOS. It is the same sequel to
Let's just forget that ever happened.
Going down
Vegeta.
the trailer. You know, you want like a nice
It's been a while.
Hell Laboratory, the pretty masterminds,
the studio that cranks out 6 games a year and no one seems to care, is how long.
No, exactly. And so they have a new subset of the studio called
a great name called Part-Time USA.
I made you a promise, remember? I said I'd make you wish for
basically,
death.
it's just a crane game. UFO, and there's a touchscreen to kind of control it and pick things up.
So you'll never beat me.
And then after you have it completed, he picks up his hat and gives you a book of
It's like, oh, you're doing this planet. Why don't you pick up something job? But it's got that weird, like how your style and
Presentation is really what's
allow me.
Before the gameplay is just,
Shall I?
Yeah, it's
My favorite scholar studies coming along.
It is really nice when you complete something.
This could be fun.
Like, oh man, I did it. I got
Is
the
it
balance.
time for a
but more than
rematch?
the balance of the cheerleaders, it's seeing the pixelated expressions of the cheerleaders' faces. And the music is like this chibi Rayman-esque take on like "Oh Brother Art Thou" soundtrack.
Yeah, that's
surreal.
Like
It's got some vocalization.
from your descriptions, this is giving me like a Rhythm Heaven WarioWare kind of vibe.
It's more like Last of Us. Have we been doing a better job?
I mean, there's no rhythm to it, but like the art style and the weirdness of it, yeah, definitely rhythm heaven. Like I love because what happens is when you finish your mission to stack stuff, it kind of gives you this like a drum roll to see if everything will stay balanced, and like you said, everyone nearby will have like crazy expressions, like oh my god, is it gonna work? And then it like clicks in, and so it's fun, it's cool.
Yeah. Part-Time UFO, the name of the game. It's just fun to see old-time Japanese studios. Like Game Freak makes a lot of. They're starting to make more and more just weird experimental side offshoots. And I love a studio's been around as long as hell. For Smash Brothers games,
Yeah.
Them making these weird little experiments off to the side, away from the normal. It's interesting. It seems like it comes from the same place as like a Fox Boy.
Yeah.
Who's a game. Oh, really? Oh, that's Fox Boy on iOS, and they don't smooth out the pixels.
I thought I was
Thank God. Dan, I think this podcast is going pretty smooth.
As soon as Box Boy got in there, what's on the upturn?
What's your problem?
Oh, you like Fox?
That's right.
I thought you were gonna fall over Fox.
Do I?
Holy Lord. All right, let's get to emails, everybody, so we can make some dang tech. Emails. Go.
Who the heck are you?
And welcome back to the Informer Show. It's a great emails here. You can just the podcast at Informer.com. You know, there's words you can write anything you want. For questions, feedback, words of wisdom, thoughts, news stories, insight, education, whatever you want. Anything that Serial
Make the show better.
Make the show better. I wanted to be a chorus. You send it into podcast@informer.com. We read off all these entries, choose our absolute favorites, and ship them out with something very nice. This week, it's Fantech Sense of Humor.
You thought it was something very nice.
Yeah.
That implies that he found it at some point to ship it out.
Yeah, I don't think FedEx takes empty boxes.
But let's say Box Boy.
Hey, punchlines. I forgot to mention in the beginning that Elise also reviewed a game called Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. Fartsy storytelling game. It seems lovely though. She gave it a 9. So we're going to talk about it next above all, in theory. But I looked at the trailer and it was like a wall of text. So
You have to like invade a cult. Is that game?
I don't know. I know.
That's a different game?
Yeah.
Never mind.
It's like mine.
Sequel to Red Dead Redemption.
Anyways, we encourage people to check it out. Read Elise's review on GameInformer.com. Should be a good time. Also, speaking of reminders, before we get to the meaty emails that are stacked up here, Leo and I, we talked a lot about the hashtag GI Show Challenge. I don't know if you're familiar with the hashtag GI Show Challenge.
Oh, I listened to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. We talked about it a lot, and it was like, how do we boil it down? How do we communicate this effectively? Because it's kind of a complicated thing to get across, and I thought we did a solid 8 out of 10 job in last week's show, but I think there's a lot of confusion. And looking at like,
are worth
2 points. A lot of people are like taking screenshots of their phone, you know, and then like uploading that picture, which is, I guess, okay-ish. But here's the idea. Here's what hashtag GI Show Challenge is like. Leo, hit it. Here's how this should go, right? We want to gamify you telling your friend about the Game Informer podcast. You want to say, hey, you should check out this game. You should subscribe, not this game, this podcast. That's why it's complicated to explain this. You should subscribe to the GI Show on iTunes or wherever you subscribe to stuff. And then we have it. So if you take a picture of your phone, subscribe to the podcast, and any other phones also in that same picture, literally a picture of the phone, subscribe to the podcast. Each phone in the picture, Dan, is worth 1 entry into a raffle. The winner of that raffle gets to be on an upcoming email section of the Game Informer Show podcast.
And also, Skype in, probably.
We can Skype them in. Zooms are worth 2 naturally. So, what you do, get your friends to subscribe to the show, take that picture with somebody's phone. It's complicated. How many phones can you get that picture? Each one will up your chances of being on the show. It'll be a fun time. And you tweet it out. Hashtag GI Show Challenge, picture of the phone, subscribe to the podcast. You can also email it in, but we prefer you tweet it out. What's confusing? Are we all alright?
I get it.
You get it, Dan Tag?
I get it.
What are entries that you've been getting that feel like they don't meet that criteria?
Well, they're all great, and we love every listener, but it's a lot of screenshots of just their phone, or it's like, it's not really a picture per se. And then also the one that I don't know how to factor in is someone made an animation of a phone subscribed to the Game Informer show, and then it zooms out, and it's like some weird-ass, trippy architect matrix room where there's like millions of phones. I don't know what to do with that.
Stealing
but
so
amazing
many
videos
count? Unbelievable.
No. So that
you should just kind of give like 3 or 4.
Probably, because probably
just for the effort, they don't get one for the phones that they simulated, but
yes, but hashtag GI Show Challenge, tweet out a picture of phone subscribe to the podcast. The point is, tell a friend. We appreciate it, Dan. We're here every week. We live in your phone every week.
We do.
Also, fun fact,
Yeah, that's really cool.
You don't have to skip 15 seconds forward at any point.
Yeah.
You were out of here.
Mark Parents monologue.
Supplement thing. Okay, you guys ready to get to emails?
Yeah.
All right. Leo in the booth, ready to get to emails?
He's sorted.
Yes.
Oh, yes, great.
By the way, FedEx absolutely would take empty boxes.
Okay, first email. Says, hey, on the previous episode of the Game Informer Show, Hansen made an egregious mistake. It is so beneath him that I can't even believe I had to publicly shame him into correcting himself. In a segment talking about entrance songs, Hansen had a lapse of memory when trying to remember who wrote the Chicago Bulls entrance music. In a failed attempt to be affable, he said the 70s hack Dan Fogarty is fine. What's the mistake here? There is no 70s hack named Dan Fogarty. Hansen conflated Creedence Clearwater Revival's frontman John Fogarty and his contemporary Dan Fogelberg. I'm not saying reparations are in order, but an apology and resignation would be great. Hansen is signed John Fogarty from San Francisco, California.
A fusion dance situation in like 1982.
Yeah, Steely Dan was probably my great. Turns out the guy who wrote the Chicago Bulls entrance music, which is amazing, was Alan Parsons, who engineered Dark Side of the Moon and had a whole project devoted to him, right? Dan, what's your favorite Alan Parsons project song?
I have no idea. Great.
All right. There we go. I really messed it up. I'm sorry, everybody. He's not a hack. Mick from Maine says, I just recently finished watching your Extra Life charity stream.
You really do look just like me.
That's still going on. On your YouTube channel, and during which you played a game called Shrouded Shadows.
So my question is, have you heard anything about an American release for that game?
You really do look just like me.
We haven't. Is that the one with where you're like a regular person in a city being attacked by kaiju? Yes. Kaiju and a bunch of other like crazy licensed commands in there. Yeah, it was a cool game. If you want to check out footage of it, we did it during Extra Life. You can find it that way. Oh, yeah, you're totally right.
Then there's no way I'll
You
lose
should
to
play
you.
it. Right, yeah, West. Again. Nick also says, I was wondering, is there a chance there might be a super replay of Disaster Report anytime down the road? The replay of Raw Dancer was a personal favorite, along with the 3DO Spectaculars. I don't know. Everything's possible. We got Killer 7 is happening tomorrow.
Magnificent.
Really?
So this is the Wario Race.
You running the sticks? Yeah. Sweet. I saw Leo laughing.
Vegeta,
So that's a good
you were a satisfying appetizer.
I'm laughing at how bad it was. I can't believe we're gonna publish this.
Steven Iowa.
favorite game.
Number one game. Killer 7. With a bullet. Steven Iowa says, hear me out on this, everybody. Hideo Kojima's Monster Hunter World Solid.
Towers of
Imagine all the craziness of Metal Gear mixed into the world of Monster Hunter. I have news for you, Steven Iowa. If you played Peace Walker, you can literally fight the Rathalos from Monster Hunter as Big Boss.
What do you think of this car?
Anyways, he says, what franchise would you like to see get Kojima-fied?
Okay, so what does this mean? What does it mean?
Look like someone I know.
Good? That's what we know. Yeah, that's a good question.
If have like the next entry directed by Kojima, I think would be the easy.
So I think maybe another example would be Castlevania Lords of Shadow, where he was like, he got heavily involved in that. And the thing that I think, I don't know about this for sure, but I think the thing that he added to it was its kind of a crazy ending.
I don't know. I think that's just an easy case of what's the most interesting part about that game. The ending. Let's give it to the biggest name on the game.
There's something about that game, like that I can't put my finger on, that I really love. That first Lords of Shadow, like I adored that game. The second one and the DS games kind of were not as good. I don't know if that just meant that he was sort of like overseeing just a lot of elements of the story or what, or maybe he was that big twist was kind of like just his thing that he wanted to see in it. But like I don't know, it's like that's kind of what I think of Kojima-fying. It's just like making the story more interesting. I don't know.
This is maybe a business cynical look at it, but maybe having Kojima on as producer just meant that team would get a little more money, a little more time, a little more of an effort from Konami, you know? And maybe that's all they needed to create a higher quality product.
Yeah.
And then there was all those discussions about like how Kojima was going to produce a Contra game and whatnot with those guys, right?
Yeah.
Rumor.
I was wondering if that turned into their game that they released recently.
I don't know if legally that's allowable. The answer is WarioWare.
I'd like to see Zelda.
Kojima's Zelda? What would that look like?
Unlimited photo storage.
Which is
with Pixel 2.
A lot more melodramatic.
You just said, directed by Kojima. That's what it would be.
I know, but what are you saying about
that?
Crazy.
specific as ever. Serial. Now this is a good idea. Dan Jack, why can't you be more like Big Brother Serial? That's such a cool idea.
I almost see it as like maybe like just to kind of make up our own whatever this is. Like you take the story, like Metal Gear was just like a NES game story, and then Metal Gear Solid became melodramatic. I mean, it has a story, but like it's very taken very seriously, like melodramatic. A lot of emphasis on cinematics and stuff like that. Like I would like to see that sort of apply to my favorite childhood franchises, like Mega Man X. I would love to see like a crazy, like really, pay a lot of attention to the story, make it really melodramatic and largely realistic and modern. So that's something that I would like to see. Yeah, of course. Maybe that's what that means to Kojima-fy something. I think it more seriously.
You just want like a Mega Man X anime, right?
That kind of is. Mega Man or PSP. They made like animated cutscenes, stuff like that.
Interesting.
So I feel like Mega Man X5 was basically like what if Hideo Kojima made for me.
Oh yeah, 4, 5, and 6 all had animated cutscenes too. Really? So
you're right, Serial. It's already been done.
We're also Extreme Lebaron has very much like Kojima.
Tim Ferrara from Arizona. He says God's Country. I don't agree with that. It's very specific about which place.
There's a logic. There's a logic.
I must
He says,
throw
at
out
least in Pokemon Go, I thought it was inevitable to get the overflow of licensed
Now I shall continue to draw cards from my deck one by one, and I'd like to stop until I draw a magic or trap card. Meanwhile, with each monster card I draw, I can attack you with a creature from my side of the field. As long as that creature has 15 of that points or less.
Well, then where was that Harry Potter thing?
I may have weakened my warrior's attack power by using his special ability, but it was well worth the price, for now I can destroy him.
Maybe it's just every letter from every word that's ever been in the Harry Potter book. Most companies are just looking at an emerald to approach it.
Queen Snake! Since it's a monster, my warrior can attack! Looks like you're on board.
Well, I don't know, but in terms of like the fact that I felt nothing as a kid, it's trash. I have so much of downside. My brother, like, for the last couple of years, found one of those toy traps.
Him and I just have such fondness for that toy.
Really?
And he turned it into a real one.
And the real weird part, he tried crawling into it, and he's stuck in there.
I feel like I'm surprised that there aren't any sort of ones that use sort of Pokemon Snap elements of just like, hey, go around and take a photo of this thing and sort of make the monster super rare, but say, hey, I have proof that I saw this one monster because I took a photo of it in my grandma's house.
I got good news for you. You're playing that game right now with your camera. Your camera on your phone. So I'll give you big points. You get a picture of Kyle. Cool. Thanks. Riley produces a Girl Washington right there. Says hello, G.I. Joe. With superhero movies ruling the movie box office these days. Movie box office. Makes me laugh. Dude, that's the video game box office. There's so many boxes. Is that right there? Box Boy. Box Boy box office. Because I'm surprised we don't see more superhero videos. I'm a big fan of superhero games, and this is interesting. Riley here was disappointed when Sucker Punch announced Ghost of Tsushima instead of the movie. You'd think they'd want to catch the superhero boom that's going on right now. Still going on. Wait, it came out. Anyways, Riley says the studio isn't too far from where I live, so maybe I should go protest. Anyways, my question to the panel is, what would be your idea of what superhero would you like to see in the video game? Personally, I'd love to see a first-person shooter based on the Punisher. I would be curious to see what sort of Punisher. Yeah, I'm just not sure what specifically the Punisher do besides kill a lot of people that would make it. That's basically just Riley also says, P.S. joking about PS4 waiting for that Game Informer coverage about Rock Station. Any day now! Any day! I would like to see a game about it. Doesn't even have to be Superman necessarily, but I just feel like I haven't really ever flown in a fun way. I'd like to see Rock Station. Would you really? Okay. No, sir, well, I'm not gonna dismiss the idea, but it's like I'm not particularly excited about it. I just rewatched the ending to Arkham Knight again. Not to spoil anything, but it reminds me of that Punisher game, which is it's just so wild. Series is good. It turns out it's very good. I would like to see Animal Man, classic DC character who absorbs powers from animals. It's a little Animorphsy, but he doesn't change into the animals. I don't believe he's just like, now I can fly like a dumb bird, and now I have the strength of a gorilla.
Dumb bird.
Yeah.
So he's not Beast Boy. He just adopts. Okay.
He just, in a very boring visual way, absorbs, I think, animal powers.
You could do a weird puzzle game based around Purple Man. Just his ability to convince people. And just have okay, you need to solve this puzzle by convincing the right person to do flip an alarm or whatever, and then you can get by, something like that.
I have good news for you, Serial.
Oh yeah?
Maybe that game's available right now on your phone.
Anyways, Max Strauss says, "Hey, GI fellas, Max from Rochester here, Rochester, New York, mind you. I've got a scenario for you. Ready for this? This is a tricky one.
All right.
He says, Smash 4 Deluxe has been announced for the Switch. Should I forward this to Imran to read up this news?
Yeah, we should get that up on the site.
He says the trailer plays and it has everything you would expect. Some new stages, maybe an Inkling or ARMS character, and then the trailer seems like it's over. Suddenly, shlink! New challenger approaching appears on the screen and some epic familiar music starts to play. This mystery character steps in the frame and the camera zooms out to reveal that it is
A ski race down a
the
winding
internet
course
goes
marked by
crazy.
flags
People
and
are
poles.
running through the streets because they're so excited. The trailer instantly gathers millions of views because of this super hype character. The question is, what character could they reveal for Smash that would gather the most hype, period? He says, I personally think someone like Goku would get this reaction. I don't know.
Duel, my friend.
It's
hard to I think it would be the one that would most probably the biggest.
Okay, so we need to set up some ground. This is a fun question.
I said a monster face down.
Can we choose
I said a card face down.
Kazharai? You know, like, does it need to be reasonable?
See, I think you could, but I don't know that Kazharai would like make people think.
So it can be any character, whether or not they've ever appeared on a Nintendo game. Character in it could be any character has to be a video game or just no, I think any character. So it's like, oh, you could say Abraham Lincoln, but they literally already did that trailer with the music for it. So what character? Is Goku number one?
Special summon
I think it's
Just because of the like long term, everyone's shenanigans are so long, you know.
Yeah.
I think something like that.
time to battle. Here we go.
Oh, like Arkham?
I attack with a monster.
Or it doesn't have to be. It could be like Batman. It could be like a custom from the tag or something to work with that.
Batman over Goku.
I think the only other thing that I think would get
my turn.
just something that would indicate that it was some sort of cross-reference here.
Yeah.
I said it
Like maybe whether or not that game would end up on Xbox, just the idea of something from another platform holder.
What about that would get more or less reaction than if they had the official trailer, the grand debut, grand tease, and then
attack position.
Very interesting.
quite a little logo or something for whatever you're using. That's the logo line.
Every comment is just a list. Every single one.
Dan, who is the number one character?
Like, when I was restricted to video game characters, I was going to go with, like, Rich Game, Withdrawal, or Gordon Freeman.
Gordon Freeman. But why not? They're licensed about the Final Fantasy at this point.
Yeah. And then when they opened it up to the whole world, man, that's just... Barack Obama, maybe?
That's so close to...
I just don't think that would be as exciting.
I think Yogi would still beat all of them, right?
What if they did like Gohan? Like they're just like one step over? Gohan, everybody! What about if it's like they announced it and just play it completely straight, but it's just like a concept? Right? It's like the Andes Mountains.
I attack your
Right? What if you're really hyped for the Andes Mountains? That would get Pornhub.
I use my face down card.
I wonder about the Master idea. Because I think franchise that like Microsoft might be like
directly.
yeah, I mean that will do more for us. I mean, yeah, we won't have Smash Brothers on Xbox, but people would be excited about Master Smash Brothers. I got something more likely than that. And I would put this at and they got it. I think that's 25% chance to have it. That's pretty high. If they announce Smash for the Switch, which what percentage are we putting that at? 75? Yeah. I think it's a Wii U port. Yeah.
Special summon Valkyrian, the Magna Warrior.
Oh. Yeah?
I think that would make it sell better. I don't know that the internet would go crazy.
Definitely, like, people would know it, but I don't think they'd still put the card.
The famous guy.
But I see it as like I don't see it as like people losing their mind, but I see it more as like a bad
Summon a monster.
You know what I mean? Like, I would almost say higher than 45%.
It's very fun. It's like 27.
I'm not good authority.
If you think that your user, like, okay, Smash on Switch, yada. So, like, I just saw Game Explain, those geniuses over there on YouTube. They post, like, what we want from Smash on Switch. And one of them is just, like, New Donk City level. Oh, of course that would happen, but that just makes me so excited for new Smash content. There's so much good potential
I want
there.
Snake back in there. I would love to just have that. Just he returns. You know.
I'm sorry, it's going to be good luck for Metal Gear Survive. The Lord of Dust.
Oh, maybe they could have what's his name?
It's my turn.
Baby?
I draw a card.
Guillermo del
Baby,
Toro.
the actor for Walking Dead. Baby.
I reveal my face
Here's
note.
an offbeat question. Do you guys think Studio Ghibli can put itself in that movie? Yeah, I bet yes. He's going to be wearing a mask.
It's my turn.
Yes.
I draw a card.
Yeah, he's the guy in the
From
trailer.
my hand. I activate a
Well,
toy to a
baby.
spell.
I think the speculation.
Anyone know what he looks like as a baby?
My turn is
I was a Kojima baby.
I was going through my notes the other day for Metal Gear Solid 5, but it's like pages and pages and pages of notes. I couldn't find the
I must protect your life points
But,
directly.
I forgot the funny detail of the fact that Miller is wearing glasses. I think it's Oswald Miller. Miller is wearing glasses in Metal Gear Solid 5 that when you zoom in on them, it just
Still
says
believe in my
Metal Gear
card.
Solid 5, the band's name. So I think Miller's glasses are probably number one for Smash 4.
I have special summon a monster.
Dear Ben, first of all, I want to weigh in on the short incident from last week.
Is this the same guy?
I'm a forbidden trap.
Different person. That God is
My monster
I'm from
effect
Texas too.
activate.
While I've never found a scorpion, when I was younger, I would find lizard corpses in my ceiling fan light bulb at least 3 to 4 times a year. Wow.
I'll never
I think his
forget you,
parents
my
are putting him there. It's like a
Never.
twisted tooth fairy.
I would see a lot of lizard corpses in South Carolina.
Really?
Yeah.
In light bulbs?
I don't know if I saw them in light bulbs, but outside I would see a lot of them.
Really? Yeah. Wow. Are you one? What was that question? Anywho, Alex has a question saying, I have an actual question. With the announcement of yet another Star Wars trilogy being developed, they didn't say trilogy, they said series, from Game of Thrones creator.
Oh, okay.
It says,
Ryan Johnson did the trilogy.
in addition to the current trilogy Ryan Johnson's directing, Solo movie, the rumored Obi-Wan movie, are we
I'll
officially
never
being
forget you,
oversaturated
my
with Star
friend.
Wars content? It seems
Never.
like Disney wants to turn Star Wars into an annualized franchise. And even if they mix it up by moving around to different parts of the galaxy from year to year, do you think the public will get burned out? Thanks, Alex.
I think the public won't get burned out for a while. Give it another 10 years. Like there's definitely going to be an oversaturation. Like just tons and tons of Star Wars.
Has Marvel been oversaturated? There are multiple films a year. And I think it's the lesson of, like, if that quality bar is high, people will withstand a hell of a lot.
Like I said, it's going to take a while, but they're not wasting any time. You know, lining up movies, lining up. There's going to be so much Star Wars. Okay, it's like that Spaceballs, scene. You know, Star Wars, the flamethrower, Star Wars XY.
Right.
You know the scene I'm talking about.
Are you dreading it?
As a I could be like the purist and be like, yeah, Star Wars is like this isn't the thing. But after we had the prequels, whatever. We're going places with it.
Yeah.
We're going places with it now, and nothing can stop it.
I think, the fact that Marvel's been able to sustain this, it's like you can use that as an easy roadmap for Star Wars, but I still think Kevin Feige and whoever's running the show over there at Marvel does not get enough credit. I think it's the craziest thing to happen in film history. They're at 19 films in a row of being like solid quality, nothing shattering, nothing falling apart. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe Infinity War will suck, but I highly doubt it.
It could. I mean, Avengers 2 wasn't great.
Yeah, but still.
But
I think
nothing
that movie
awful.
gets too much crap.
Isn't Infinity War going to be like 3 or 4 hours long or something?
I don't know about that.
It is
It's
gonna be
two
long.
movies,
Oh, is it?
I'm still curious, what the movies look like between Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2.
They just cut right between. There's no credits. It just ends.
Is that what it is?
Mid-line, someone's speaking, and they just cut out.
That's great.
Part 2.
Steven from Culver City, California says, hello, crew. He had a story about spiders hatching out from his fan light while he was
good.
playing Lord of the Rings online, and strings covering his body.
I love it.
It was like the Into the Breach enemy. He says, unrelated to the story, I have a question though. Do any of you have any favorite convention or developer to visit just because of the food you get to have at a restaurant when you go while you're in town? If your answer involves Japan, that's too obvious. How about you don't cheat and give a runner-up?
China.
Love Chinese food. We've never been.
Known runner-up country, China.
The one I immediately thought of is every time, I've been to Montreal 60,000 times, I believe, for cover story trips and stuff. There's a lot of going on out there. But every time I'm excited just for the idea of eating some poutine. Just the best. Just the best.
place.
I keep trying to check. I will literally, whenever I go on a trip, I'm like, is there Zaxby's in this area?
Zaxby's?
Yeah, it's like this fast food restaurant that I really miss from the south.
They serve dead lizards?
I think you can ask for it as like off menu. But no developer I've gone to has had a Zaxby's nearby yet. So fingers crossed, I'll get Zaxby's again when
First developer I go to have a Zaxby's 10 out of 10.
That's not true.
I haven't had a chance to visit as many developers as some of you guys have, but I will say that one of the reasons I am looking forward to E3 is to going to the Donut King if we go in that same hotel.
That's a good place.
It's a great donut place.
Oh, Donut King, the tiny place. I was thinking about that bum F donut place you made us drive all the way out to so you could
Oh no, that's not the Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo's donut hole.
Yeah, we didn't get to try them.
No,
True.
so you get to go to
It's a solid donut place next to our typical.
Yeah.
So much to ask.
Nicholas Lai, people who were very nervous about us giving them an award.
Nicholas Lai writes in and says, hello, Game Informer Show. During last week's episode, you lamented the fact that not a lot of people write in asking about your opinions on different news pieces and stuff. He says, I actually listened to a podcast, for reference, it's the NPR Politics podcast. Certainly I listened to that one. I do. He says, where they have a segment called Can't Let It Go, where each person brings up a story at the end of the episode that they can't stop thinking about. Relevance to the podcast be damned. You must need to think of a silly name for it, but you've got an easy recurring segment there. Maybe call it Reinformer? As long as it has a fun name, I'd be pleased. I've thought about that, because I love that segment too, where it's like, hey, here's this news story, and I'll be able to talk about it. Can't Let It Go?
Can we just call the segment NPR Politics' Can't Let It Go?
Can't Let It Go.
There we go!
Game Informer side quest.
I love that idea. I worry about padding out the length of the show. We need to leave time for lizard jokes. But yeah, maybe we'll talk about it. We'll figure it out. Thanks, Nicholas. Billy from Gloucester, Virginia, friend of the show, writes in all the time. Wonderful. He says, I've heard you talk about the old CG Donkey Kong Country cartoon on the podcast before. I watched it as a teenager because I love the games. Sure, it was just as good. Oh, he says, it's not great, but I didn't hate it. Right. I've actually used a song from the show as my alarm to wake me up for, it has to be close to a decade now. Why has he been using it? It's the only alarm that he's never slept through. This is the song that he uses as an alarm clock from Donkey Kong Country. Sit back, we're absorbing this full thing, Dan Tag. Alright, here we go.
That's the last of them. And nothing, not one clue how to break the spell. And if DK never wakes up, well, he can very well protect the crystal coconut in his dreams.
Don't worry, Cranky. He'll wake up if he knows what's good for him. Wake up! Wake up, Donkey Kong! Wake up!
Wakey, rise and shine.
I call BS on this email.
Wake up, Joey!
This is the longest alarm.
Miserable. I call BS. Nobody wakes up to this.
Really? Are you kidding me? This would absolutely wake you up.
If you put this on the other end of the room, you would have to get up in order to turn it off.
Wake up!
I think that was like oh, it was a whistle. He says, my wife, who's lived with me using that as my alarm for the last decade, is obviously the best woman in the world. Oh, yeah. She has absolutely the right to walk out at any point.
Buy her some sound canceling earphones.
Yeah, buy her some TV show canceling earphones. Anyways, we have talked about Donkey Kong Country music for like the past 2 weeks, but not the good Donkey Kong Country music. This is clearly the game series renowned for its amazing soundtrack, and we're talking about the worst possible. We're talking about the show soundtrack, right? The bottom of the barrel. Blaine Erickson says, Dear Ben and the Jets, cute. So I just replayed through Dead Space 2 and 3 recently. Dead Space 2 is easily my favorite horror game of all time, and one of my favorite games in general. With the recent shutdown of Volition, the chances of a Dead Space 4 in the future probably dropped significantly. So my question to you is, if they were to make a Dead Space 4, what would you want to see from the game? Would you want it to go back to explore roots? Would you want to do story characters? Please discuss. Please, for the love of God, discuss. Shout out to my main boy, Ian Miller. Cool.
Yeah, what's up, Ian? Hey, I definitely would like to go back to the more horror style thing instead of focus on combat. So
I like 3. Like 3 gets a bad rap, but I really would want a Dead Space 4 to go back in space. I don't want to make my own weapons.
More microtransactions. That's what we always wanted.
I was actually playing Dead Space 2 this weekend.
Really?
I really adore that game because we've been thinking a lot about our personal top 10 favorite games of all time. Why? Because just kind of had a discussion, and I was trying to think if maybe that would go on mine. And man, that game holds up. I really love that game.
Dead Space 2 over 1.
Yeah, oh yeah, by a long shot, honestly. But yeah, I would want to go back to space. It didn't have to be Isaac. I think Isaac's story concluded pretty easily. But I did like that he wasn't a soldier. There was DLC where he plays a soldier in Dead Space 2, or like a security guard. But I did like the sort of Half-Life style. Like this guy's just trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah, and doing what he can. He didn't even have weapons technically. He was just using like his tools to fight the enemies and stuff like that.
Well, if they made one, and they won't for a long time, but if they made one and they tried to position it as like getting back to the horror, I feel like Gears of War 4 did that in the marketing and the cover story trip a fair amount of like, we're going back to suspense. I was just looking, it's on the cover of Game Informer, like Gears of War goes back to its suspenseful roots. I think if you talk to anybody that played Gears of War 4, I don't think anyone was like, holy cow. My man.
Yeah, so my issue is that Gears of War, even though it was like in a dark world, it was never scary.
I feel like that first one tried to be very, especially in the middle act, tried to be very horror.
Like the underground stuff.
Yeah, but like the problem is that you have this incredible gun that can pretty much kill anything that is going to hit at you. So it's not like,
yeah. But yeah, Dead Space, I just love just stuff going wrong in space and just trying to pivot and like figure out what to do. Like there's so many sequences like where in Dead Space 3 you have to like fly between ships. That's so awesome. Just like that idea of like I gotta figure this out, I gotta get to safety.
Because it's so quiet out there. It's a cool part.
I guess, yeah. And then at 3, I mean, at 3 just never clicked with that. I always felt too safe just being on the ground in the snow in a weird way. Because doors would literally open in Dead Space with the potential of you getting sucked out in space. You had to figure out what to do quickly. Yeah. So I would really love to see Dead Space 4 someday. It's probably my favorite EA game.
Well, I mean, the creators of Dead Space, the creative directors and whatnot, went on to Sledgehammer Games. They're now working at Activision proper, maybe on some new IP. Maybe the new IP is just Dead Space. Who can say? It's a wacky world, right, Dan Tag?
It is. Crazier things have happened.
Yeah, that's not true. That's me, probably.
Crazier things have happened. Yeah, it's true. Off with the Dead Space guy in Smash Brothers.
Oh, people would lose their mind.
I honestly thought of that, but I think he was in PlayStation All-Stars, so I didn't bring it up.
Oh, was he really?
I think Isaac was in there. I could be wrong about that.
And plus, you'd have to use the one character from Extraction on the Wii. Is that what the Wii version was called?
Sure.
Solving puzzles with the Wii.
I'm talking about 2.
Yeah, sorry. Corey Davies writes in and says, "Hello, my name is Corey Davies, and I'm from Big Lake, Minnesota. Here's my lone challenge, because I'm a loser. Corey, Minnesota. Big Lake, at that? Anyways, here's my question. As the Dark Souls Remastered release looms in the distance, I went back and watched the Super Replay with the late, great Tim Curry, who's alive and well. And I was watching all 30 episodes, and I got the feeling that Dan Tack does not like you, Ben. What is? This question comes up a lot. What is up with that? Your episodes were hands down the funniest, making Dan so uncomfortable. It was a masterpiece. So I guess my real question is, is it a show, or is Dan Tack really just that quirky?
I guess only you can answer that, right? He's asking, am I quirky? I'm getting confused here.
Serial, to what extent is Dan Tack putting on a show where he records videos for stuff like Dark Souls where he pretends to be flustered by it?
Still not figured it out.
Kyle, do you know what's going on with Dan Tack?
There's no way.
Leo in the booth, have you figured out Dan Tack? Yep. I'll be damned. All right.
Well, Leo, if you could write up the email and send out to the staff, we appreciate it.
Yeah. 30 hours, 30 episodes of that thing.
Was it 30? Man,
that's what he says. What
did it feel like it?
What are your memories of it, Dan?
I don't remember it being 30 episodes. I think it was like 16.
Whatever. What do you remember from replaying?
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun playing that one too.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Just 10 though. He didn't call you out. I noticed that. I was only on like the first 6, I think.
Where we were coming on the weekends for that one. We really.
Oh wow! Because it was before the Dark Souls 3 cover story trip. And it's like we need to refresh ourselves on Dark Souls. What better way than to play it? It's like at that point we should just record it. And so we came in early on a Saturday.
We did.
And Dan Tack was grumpy and wanted to go watch esports or something. There was some tournament you wanted to watch.
I did want to do something.
Yeah, maybe that's why
we had Jimmy Jones. To be fair, that was pretty good. We did Dark Souls 3 as well. That was fun. We did do
all that stuff. Kyle Wiesbauer says, "Hello, crew. Just wanted some Overwatch. I was just watching some Overwatch League highlights on Facebook, and I heard something that made me double take. Is Dan Tack an Overwatch League commentator? If so, how did that happen? I'd love to hear the story."
I mean, we can start off by saying that no, I am not an Overwatch League commentator.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of the end of the whole.
Dan, this email, I was so confused. I actually Googled, like, is Dave Jackman doing a little freelance commentating on the set? I couldn't find any.
I think I might get trolled for that.
This is the degree to which you haven't figured out Dan Tack is that you weren't sure.
No!
Did somebody sound like Dan Tack? Is that what it was? Or
I don't know.
was
He
it
was
somebody
quite
named
convinced that Dan
Dan
Tack
Answer the
was a
question.
commentator.
I have not done any commentary.
Give us a commentary reel of what is your little.
I actually Googled, like, is Dave Jackman doing a little freelance commentating on the set? I couldn't find any.
I think I might get trolled for that.
Could you play the Big Bad Beetleborgs theme again?
I was watching that on Netflix yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, because I wanted to hear the theme. I was like, I feel like I've heard this recently, and I just played the beginning. This is the show with the
So is that on YouTube where most people go to find old themes?
It was on. I was on the screen. I was like, I remember this theme song being interesting.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't.
And no, I think it is. Leo, we can cut if we need to. How you doing on that?
I can just sing it.
Oh,
take it away.
yeah.
3 typical average kids inside a haunted mansion. Just so happens free to ghosts, and now they're Beetleborgs.
Big Bad Beetleborgs. There you go, Manton. Any other songs you want to request, just write in, podcast@gameformer.com. Justin Brimley Says, hello, podcast crew. Today I had it officially confirmed for me, that one of my new favorite things, Drop Mix, completely bombed in stores, at least locally. I'm attaching a couple pictures to show you what I mean. He has a picture of Drop Mix on a clearance rack for $20.
Oh, what is that retail? 100.
Should be 100. For $20, $25, dude. Buy Drop Mix. Surreal. It's awesome. For that low of a price.
Sure. For the love of God, will you buy Drop Mix?
All right. Please do.
It was on sale.
There we go.
Get him on that mic.
Oh, here's a tricky one. So this is Trent from Chicago who says, "Go Cubs." For Reiner, hello. He says, while playing Assassin's Creed Origins the other day, I lost a very frustrating fight to a troop of Roman legionnaires, and I was desynchronized. Something that any fan of the series has become familiar with. Apparently not saying it. It got me thinking about how other player death is dealt with in games. While often just a tiny part of the larger experience, Mortal Kombat notwithstanding, I appreciate the seemingly insignificant details that go into making a character's demise impactful or unique. Lacking a less grotesque way to ask this, what are some of your favorite or most memorable ways a game has treated your character dying or failing, getting a game over? Two examples readily come to mind with Mass Effect. I've never loved the simple yet intensely ominous and perfectly fitting synth soundtrack that plays whenever Shepard kicks the bucket, and the Arkham series, Joker's taunting. What do you guys like for game over sounds? It is interesting. Just what happens on the screen. I always think of Uncharted, which is, they try to be emotionally resonant with the storytelling, and then every time I accidentally make the wrong jump and Nathan Drake falls off a waterfall, you just think, what if this was actually story-wise the canonical way that he died, and it's just Elena going, Drake! Just slowly yelling out, oh no, Drake!
That's a good Elena.
That's spot on Elena.
That was Sully.
Oh!
Even better. Metal Gear, just having people yell Snake is really iconic.
I know, Snake. I think, hang on, stop, real quick. This is what makes me laugh a lot about Metal Gear Survive, is because, Metal Gear Solid, one of the most iconic game over screens of all time with Otacon yelling Snake. Yeah. I understand where he's coming from Mass Effect 1 with the cool Saren's theme, like the ding-ding-ding. But Metal Gear Solid, absolute legend. First time I died in Metal Gear Survive, I was horrified by what I found, which goes a little something like this.
I read no title. Please respond. You think it ends in such a way? Oh, how unfortunate.
There we go! Metal Gear Survive, everybody!
I do like the, up until the AI committed to you being dead, it's like, oh, that's unfortunate. I do like it being like, please respond. Please respond. Like, if it just did that forever.
Yeah. What do you like, though, Cal?
I like when Leon gets beheaded in Resident Evil 4. That's a very specific one.
Yeah.
I like GTA, where things slow down,
What do you do?
Yeah.
Busted?
Yeah.
Wasted?
I like that.
Something like Mantex last weekend.
Hey. No problem.
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. Here's a conundrum. Luke from Holland, Michigan, that is. He says, hey, Damon and friends? I don't know about Damon. I don't know why he calls him Damon. He says, I've got 2 game ideas. What do you think of these? The first is a classic-style adventure game set in the Bayou, say it together, Scooby-Doo universe. Overall, the aesthetic and the humor of the game would be in line with the old shows from the late 60s and 70s, not the new crappy shows. You'd have the option to choose between self-contained mysteries all over the world with the overarching meta-mystery going on, allowing the player to switch between characters who each have their own special abilities. There'd be multiple ways to complete the levels. There would be guest stars in the game, as is a staple of Scooby-Doo. I'm not sure what the Scooby snacks would do. You need to figure that out before your first design meeting here. Come on, Luke. Also, he says, second game, I don't have a firm grasp on, but it would be a third-person open-world action game like Sleeping Dogs, but would take place in a futuristic city that is located in the Grand Canyon. All right. He would be. Sounds like he's got an idea. It would be more along the lines of scummy Coruscant than typical dystopian setting.
Netflix needs to hire this guy for some of their upcoming content.
Netflix, you greenlit. Who's my supposed to play?
Remember Me.
Does that take place in the Grand Canyon?
No, but it kind of makes me think of it. Like, I would be surprised if I never beat that game, but in the end, it was revealed that it's been in the Grand Canyon the whole time.
I thought it was weird that that game played such a big part in Pixar's Coco. So what do you think about the Scooby-Doo idea?
I think it's pretty
solid idea.
I do like that
I do
idea.
not like Scooby-Doo as a franchise.
What?
But it was the first instance when I was a child where I realized that like animation could be bad. Like I remember watching I Love Batman. They had an episode of like Batman was there, and just one frame of Batman talking, he just didn't have pants on. You can look this up on YouTube. And I remember my dad pointing that out to me, and I was just like, "What the hell is this? This is bad." And from that point on, they're like,
Yeah, I do like the idea of an adventure game mirroring that format, like in a Cuphead style way of just the super crappy 60s, 70s animation style.
Yeah.
And it is perfect for like swapping between characters and Maniac Mansion style.
yeah, it would
I'm
work.
into it.
Other than just my personal distaste for Scooby-Doo, I think that's a solid idea.
Here's the catch though, Luke. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Gotta hit the pavement.
That's right.
Crack open a book on coding. This takes work. There's no
Either like
Gotta make your own Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Cry when they get taken down.
Or just beg Nintendo or Namco, whoever's making it, to put Scooby-Doo as the Smash 4 character that would present the world.
That would do it.
Just the abyss.
Just a sound, and you just hear that logo and just.
And what if, but then the reveal,
and like.
Hang on, Cyril, are you secretly an amazing impressionist? What's going on here? Does anybody have any impressions they can yell out for Cyril to do here?
Crocodile Dundee, take it away.
I'm Crocodile Dundee.
Come on, you can try it.
I've never watched Crocodile.
Oh, yeah, I'm mad about this.
It's fantastic.
That's not a knife.
Yeah, come on, man. What about
You ate my baby? Is that what it was?
Sure.
no, that's Seinfeld.
Okay.
That's not important. Do Seinfeld. Seinfeld.
Seinfeld.
Perfect.
I was just gonna get some praise.
That's Big Ben's impression. That wasn't
Ben's impression of Seinfeld. That's very good.
Brent in Raleigh, North Carolina, dead lizard town. He says, I've been meaning to write this to you for a while. I'm hoping you or perhaps another viewer can solve this mystery. Take a listen to these two musical themes. One is from a game called Comic Bakery on the Commodore 64. Of course. Okay, so let's take a listen to this.
Pretty sweet.
Oh, yeah. Hang on. Waiting for the signature sound. Bakery I'm gonna go to. Hang on, Cosmic Bakery, that's me.
These are great songs. Yeah. What do you do in this game?
I looked at footage. It's like a bizarre platformer, and then it just says, "Oh, hang on." Oh shit! What are you doing there?
Playing a guitar.
He's playing an electric ukulele.
Pick up a guitar with both your hands without strumming.
I think he's holding a keyboard like upside down, and it gets his.
So I can look at the keys better.
But overall, the gameplay, it just had a huge text. I think it said "Imagine Konami" like at the bottom of the screen throughout the gameplay. That sounds amazing. Yeah, this is what Konami needs to bring back.
Their cover of Imagine by John Lennon.
Imagine if there was no Metal Gear. Do John Lennon. Do John Lennon. Oh, do John Lennon. Sing into this song, freestyle, and go.
I ain't got nothing but love. 8 days a week.
I take it all back. So anyways, the point of this email is he says, all right, cool, it's Comic Bakery. He says, now, listen to this song from Jurassic Park on the Game Boy.
Oh my god. There it is. We were waiting for it.
Brent from Raleigh, North Carolina says, they are the same song! They're the same song!
Very, very
that
close.
sounds very similar to that part of it.
Yeah.
That part of it is the same.
But that part is in the song, right? Yep. Okay. He says, I read on a message board, this is some pop-in message boards, that perhaps the two composers worked with each other at a company called Ocean, and that the Jurassic Park theme is supposed to be an homage to Martin Galway's Comic Bakery theme, but it seems so weird to me. I didn't know if this was just a really random place to honor a coworker, or this is some sort of plagiarism. What do you guys think? Yeah, we don't know, but yeah, those are the same songs.
I don't know. I'm not an expert in that kind of,
But maybe it's like a thematic homage, like Jurassic Park is the ultimate comic bakery in a way.
Yeah, they really they cooked up some dinosaurs.
They baked eggs.
Yeah.
Ready?
This makes a lot of sense.
Ian Malcolm's comic.
Let's see. So a lot of great
Did you
emails
say
here.
Ian Malcolm's a comic?
He's funny. He's funny in the first movie. Okay. He is funny in the
Lost World. I just think Lost World.
I'm doing my Seinfeld
His
now.
yawn is funny in the beginning. Name one other joke other than Mommy's very angry.
I like when what's the other guy, the photographer? What's his name? The actor.
Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn is yelling the full name of the woman that they're searching for,
Sarah.
and he's like, it was just Child Sarah. That's true. He's funny in that movie.
Damn it, you're right. He is one of the saving graces of that film.
That's right. Saving Grace is a fun movie. So here we go. Garrett from Utah says, "Dear crew, while listening to your podcast a few weeks back, I could not stop laughing at the thought of a game company having to earn their right to make their own IP by first proving themselves with someone else's IP. With this in mind, I've made a challenge for you to find out which studio would win what I call the Blue Point Games Challenge. Studios were chosen at random by me, going down a list, and the game's IPs were also chosen somewhat at random, then they're all shuffled. Going head-to-head and making a game based on the IP genre, which studio do you think would make the better game and ultimately be able to be the Blue Point Games Challenge champion?" Alright, here we go. First official Blue Point Games Challenge.
You got a whole bracket.
It's very specific.
God,
the
right.
twist, I don't know if Blue Point is even on this. Okay, so
Well, they've already done it. Yeah, they've won.
it's true. Okay, so number one, which studio would make a better version of Pac-Man? 2K Games or Psyonix?
Probably developers.
Probably Psyonix, I think, because that's more arcadey.
You know, with Psyonix.
Like a sports developer is a good pick for a Pac-Man game, but I think Psyonix because it's more arcadey.
I think so too. Yeah. Okay, number two, who would make a better LA Noir? That Game Company or Firaxis?
That game company.
Wow. Really?
I would go for that game company. Doesn't even have real people in there.
Developers at that game company are talented people.
Oh yeah, they
I will
absolutely
not
are,
have
but they're more like art focused. Where
That's weird abstract.
You don't need to explain it. You just need to give an answer.
I
I
would
like
Firaxis.
it.
Leo, can you break the tie? Firaxis for that game company? The second one.
Yeah, your faces.
Oh no. All right, here we go. Bubsy, is it Crytek or Harmonix?
Harmonic, Crytek.
Crytek.
Alright, at least Crytek would look very nice.
Okay. All right, you guys.
Well, what was your vote?
I'll go with that. Number four, Sonic. Go with what? Sonic. I'll go with Crytek. Okay, there we go. Sonic. Do you want Bethesda Sonic or Rovio's Sonic? Rovio's
I think Rovio would do a better job.
I'm going Rovio. Sorry,
Sonic
Jack.
2006 didn't work.
You guys
and
can be
Bethesda
wrong.
games don't really work. Yeah, I feel like that overlap would create a
That
game.
would not make a
Also
good
doesn't
game.
work.
Those two wrongs would not make it right, Kyle.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Bomberman. You want NetherRealm or Rockstar?
Rockstar.
NetherRealm.
For Bomberman?
Yeah,
I said
Mortal
Rockstar.
Kombat.
Yeah, clearly go Rockstar.
But I said,
Why? I'm overruling you guys.
Right.
Oh, weird, like open world Bomberman.
I mean, I voted Rockstar too, but
All right, Leo, will you settle this
Rockstar
tie?
requires, Bomberman requires very locked-in specific good controls. Like Grand Theft Auto games don't have great controls. I love those games. I adore them, but the controlling is always kind of an issue.
Don't you just want to see Bomberman like roaming around an open world city, just riding a jet ski?
Did they try that with X-Zero?
I don't think there was a jet ski.
I think we would get something.
Right in. Let us know if there
was a jet ski in X-Zero. All right, so Leo has to break the tie here.
NetherRealm or Rockstar, Leo? Bomberman. I don't want to waste either of those studios' time.
That's a good point too. Actually, can I pick Leo's answer?
NetherRealm.
There we go.
All right, there we go. Number 6, Bubble Bobble. Telltale or Riot?
Riot.
All right, sorry, Telltale. Final Fantasy game. Do you want Respawn making it or Supergiant?
Supergiant.
Okay, all right. Duke Nukem. Do you want id Software or Insomniac?
id Software.
Id Software. Okay. Well, some of these answers for me are like you guys said. I would rather Rockstar be doing something besides Bomberman.
I don't want
anyone
help
to make a
but
regular game.
What is the meaning to be a man? Ridge Racer, Dice or Mojang?
Dice.
Wow. What has Mojang done besides port? They have a few other titles.
They shut down Scrolls. They shut down SimCity, Square Enix or Supercell?
SimCity, Square Enix or Supercell?
Square Enix.
Supercell.
Oh man, Supercell again?
Clash Clans.
Okay. So we're going Supercell for SimCity.
I went with the other choice. Mind you, it's like that Chrono Trigger.
Well, if the idea is that they have to make this game good and for people to like it in order to make their own game, I think if they're just doing this as a basically as a stepping stone, they could probably just not.
All we know is that they're making it.
Right.
That's the only know.
But we also know the challenge is to make a game so that you can make your own game.
Right, exactly. So who are you voting for? Wow. Hey, holy lord. New Tony Hawk game. These are obvious. From Software or Avalanche Studios?
Avalanche.
You don't want to see From Software? I would like to see both. I wouldn't want to see it.
Yeah, I want to see it, but it's... Come on.
It's really hard. Tony Hawk corpse run to your skateboard. Alright. New Alien game. That old franchise. Sucker Punch or CD Projekt Red?
CD Projekt Red. CD Projekt Red.
Sorry, Sucker Punch.
I love Sucker Punch.
Rampage. Based on the film. Fulbright? Fulbright, okay. Or Polyphony Digital. Gran Turismo people.
Fulbright. Gran Turismo.
I think Polyphony could do it. Because they could do a realistic, like, those movies would look
I want to know the stories behind those people that are living in that building.
You could rummage through George's closet.
You're rummaging through this entire building, but you're a giant monster.
Hang on, I'm changing my answer.
Yeah.
I'm going Fulbright. I'm changing it to Fulbright officially. So I think it's just, you got to rummage through that building. 14, Shaq Fu from the Behemoth or Gearbox.
Gearbox.
I think the Behemoth would make a very funny Shaq Fu.
I think they would too. And I think it would look beautiful. It would look cool.
Shaq is already beautiful.
That's true. Have to improve on that. All right, I'll go that. All right, we'll save the next round for next week, maybe.
All right.
Live on Games Challenge, everybody. Thank you.
That's a good
so
challenge.
much. For Utah for taking it so seriously.
It was interesting.
It wasn't interesting. What do you guys like? Email of the week.
That's it. Right there.
I think that
Smash Brothers. It's right there. I just had it.
Super Smash Brothers.
Nobody else has ever come up with like an activity.
Well,
I mean, we've had something very close to this.
They haven't been, this was cool.
It was cool. It was cool.
I do appreciate the effort put into this.
It's true, but Smash Brothers was an interesting idea.
All right.
Was it interesting?
I don't mind giving it to that.
I wouldn't mind giving it.
Floppers over here.
Cowards! If I'm the last one defending the bracket, then I'll concede. But
Okay.
I think that's much better. I think a lot more effort was put into that one than this.
We'll give it to them next week, okay?
When we do the part 2.
What if we don't, though? All right. So, are we giving it to Smash Brothers?
Let's go. That's what you want. I like Smash Brothers.
Okay. Leo in the booth.
Smash Brothers, and then give it to this one next week.
All right, there we go. Max Bros from Rochester, New York. But still, we encourage you to write in your emails next week to podcast@gameover.com. You'll lose. Yes. We're looking forward to hearing from you. All right, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much, and thanks to Max for writing in with a great email. Everybody that wrote in the podcast@gameover.com, we appreciate it. For now, stay tuned. We talked to Jordan Thomas about working with Matt and Trey on the South Park games. Working on BioShock series 1, 2, and 3. Working with Ken Levine, his game, The Magic Circle. How much of that was a critique of Ken Levine, which comes up a fair amount. He did. Well, BioShock Infinite. All right. In the biz, we call it BioShock 3. And then the new game, Black Ops Club. So it's an interesting chat with a seasoned developer. So stay tuned for that. Jordan Thomas, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you. If you're watching the video version, you should be very impressed by Jordan's backdrop and his professional mic setup. This is a hell of a thing you got going on over there.
Well, I stream a permadeath D&D show, and so I invested perhaps unwisely in a little bit of equipment.
Wow, what's the name of the show?
It's called Dice with Death, and the first season has not all been released yet, but is complete. It was very bloody. And the sort of basic premise is that any player whose character dies is actually off the show, and so death has a certain set of stakes to it, and the players take it very seriously.
Is that bizarre? Like, do you look at the Twitch chat and the Twitch feed? Are people just constantly leaving comments like, "Talk about BioShock 2. What do you think about Ken Levine?"
There was definitely a non-zero BioShock factor when we first launched, but I think as time went on, it's such an acquired taste that the people who stuck around are definitely there to watch nerds roll dice.
Well, hey, it's been fun watching you slowly tease the new project you guys have been working on Twitter. It feels like it's always nice when you can feel anticipation, maybe dread, tension from developers coming through on Twitter in the ramp up to announcing their new game. So now you've officially announced, the Blackout Club. You want to talk about what it was like to keep this thing under wraps for so long?
Well, sure. And as I do, please let me know if this microphone is so sensitive that it picks up internal screaming. It's we've assembled a team of ex-BioShock, Dishonored, Thief, Deus Ex, even Prey, people who have spent their years in AAA trying to sort of perfect interesting systems that the player can combine to kind of weave their own play style out of the ether. And so the idea of bringing that to a cooperative horror game in particular has been intense, and there's been a lot of soul searching involved, but I think everybody on the team feels like it's a really interesting problem, and we've come out the other side ready to show people something that we're quite proud of.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, with that kind of talent all funneling into a game, I mean, how much pressure is there to just do okay, should we just make a game where we can work shock in some way cryptically into the title just to rope in that crowd? I mean, are there those discussions early on?
There were. In fact, this game spent at least a few months as a more contiguous, not quite single player, because it was always cooperative from the beginning, but more contiguous, sort of trapped in the underground maze beneath this sort of suburban town. And it followed the formula in the sense that it was a mystery where you sort of slowly came closer to the final sort of narrative beats, and eventually you would come to an ending. What it has become is much more of almost a teens versus monsters simulator, where you and your friends are investigating this sort of terrifying secret under the ground of your hometown, but the adventure goes on forever. The design is procedural, and so challenges and objectives will change night to night, and you don't really ever know what you're in for.
And so, why the change? Were you thinking more of Twitch streams in mind, or what were the decisions behind that?
That's honestly a very good question. The biggest thing that I think we felt that we were missing is time in the kids' neighborhood. So you're playing, people and from 13 to 16, give or take, that sort of Stranger Things or It Follows range of age. And the original design, because we had to stay 100% contiguous, you were trapped underground for a lot of that time, because otherwise the player will say, well, why don't I just go to the cops? Why don't I just wander off? Yeah. And so we said, okay, no, let's build a little bit of the sort of neighborhood above it. Once we were leaping from rooftop to rooftop and recording the creepy stuff going on down in the street, we were like, this has to be the game. And so we broke it into missions that you can sort of dip into and then have their own kind of boundaries. But there's never a question of, do the kids go home? Because the answer is yes. Between missions, they do. And they go back to their hideout and they talk about what happened. And, if you manage to record some interesting sort of creepy evidence, you can review it back in the hideout sort of without annoying your fellow players.
I'm trying to wrap my mind around what this game is, which is a good sign because it implies it's doing something new for the video game space. So it's one long continuous story, or it's just kind of an ambiguous world and you get more and more details the more you play, but there's no real end game in sight. It's just mission after mission after mission.
It's sort of along the lines of Lovecraftian or cosmic horror, where, like if you play Call of Cthulhu or any of that kind of ilk, where the mystery is vast and you are just flashlights in the dark trying to catch a single contour and describe your experience based on that single detail. And so the shape of whatever it is that's lurking in that unknowable darkness is so huge that you're not going to defeat it. You're sort of always constantly looking for answers and trying to survive the night. So the missions essentially go on forever. Each night, your objectives are very, very different. We want it to feel like you never know what's around the corner. And the hope is that as you get closer and closer to the sort of secret heart of the facility underneath the town, this sort of great maze that looks almost like the inside of a human ear, you'll get access to more of the thinking behind the antagonists without ever actually unseating them. Forgive me.
How do you incentivize players to keep at it? Is it just the minute-to-minute gameplay and the loop is going to be so enticing that, you'll scratch the surface of the unknowable? How's that for a carrot?
That is a very fair question. I think that the sort of primary answer to that is that you are growing your character towards an eventual end. Your individual sort of profile is this sort of teenage investigator, and you have different powers and abilities that you kind of slot in like cards in a deck. And as you make progress, as you record physical evidence in the world with your smartphone, you are gaining experience points that are commensurate to the difficulty of that moment. So, for example, if you had an objective tonight which was record your friend being dragged away by the boogeyman, that is a highly risky thing to engineer, and so we're going to reward you for that, and your character might gain an entire level from that single act. And so as you do that, you unlock further powers, and eventually you will cap out that character. And I'm not going to reveal what happens there, but suffice it to say that it's something that we are planning for. A sort of ascension.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, just the idea of co-op horror, I feel like companies have tried before, and it's always especially tricky. Also, randomly generated horror, procedural generated horror is difficult, and you're trying to tackle both in one game. Has it been a challenge? Do you want to talk about that process and kind of the do's and don'ts along the way?
Certainly, yeah. I mean, I would say that I want to be candid. I think that relative to a game that lays claim to procedural content in the sense that the environment is randomized, that is not us. We come from the BioShock school of thought. We like the game environment to make a very strong statement about who lives here, what their day-to-day life was like, what their pain is. And so the neighborhood itself is a fixed location where, we know who lives in every house. And if you visit that house, you're going to see, you might see a new email or something that is a detail of that person's life. You can see the last time you visited. And what attacks you inside the house might be very different. But the actual environment is something that means a lot to us. We want you to feel like a real hometown that you're visiting. You gain access to more and more of it as you play more of the game. And so as we expand the sort of base of content of the original map that we're going to ship with, you're going to potentially visit a school or
we know that a Hell in a Cell match is taking place every October. We know that a TLC match will be taking place in December. That's the race of the epic announcement of a TLC match coming your way.
Is powering
There's only been one sent for this event, and it's immediately going to get erased because of the awesomeness of that stage setup.
I would say it has been dizzying, but in a good way.
Whoever made that my cat turn heel sign, I give you props for making me laugh so hard at the beginning of this event.
About the game,
another sin, and we are now in the negative.
They all have a Goonies in their heart, or a Stranger Things, or a It Follows,
no
or
arguing, please.
Whether it's Stephen King or even on the other spectrum, like Supernatural.
And the cameraman knocked over a ladder too when he stumbled.
People who deeply care about one another investigating
I'm surprised they didn't just bring it to the ring to start the match.
Their town, the kind of truth monster that is growing up, eventually forcing you to confront. They all have responded to that instinctively. They haven't had to do much explaining of that core premise. And because that is true, we're very confident. Taking it to places you might not expect, because we believe that you'll be invested in just these kids and their bond.
Okay. What the hell is Sheldon thinking? There's a ladder nearly Jeff Hardy's size.
Hopefully your friends as well. I mean, we're going to have, it's a drop-in, drop-out co-op arrangement, so people can join your mission in progress, and they can leave if needs be, and you may even be able to press your luck where if you complete one objective, you can sort of solo and take home what you, or rather, cash out and take home the experience you've got so far, or you can invest in pushing your luck and going for another objective that same night. But if you do, every little time you commit creates this sort of creepy music under the layer of the concrete, the sort of the streets of your town. And that creepy music corresponds to your crimes and brings the boogeyman one step closer to attacking you. And so there's an escalating risk the later you go, but the best move, both sort of player customization and also tools are rewarded to players who are willing to
easy on each other like a bunch of pussies.
You mentioned how does this work? Is it just one Nemesis-like figure, or is it an enemy type, or how do you define the boogeyman? I guess is my question.
The annoying ceiling
You don't is the answer to that. Steven Spielberg famously said that if he had more money, he would have shown more of the shark.
Why did Christian just reach for his red? He said he believes he needs both hands on the ring in order to get to the title.
There's something out there which you can only see in a game like Splatoon or Eyes Shut, coming through the blackouts, the sort of autonomous blackouts.
Oh my God!
Kids share. They all have lost time, where they wake up at a crossroads in the middle of town covered in dirt and don't know what they've done. Well, if you close your eyes and sort of you see this awful kind of theater of the mind,
Jerry was going to say countries before he stopped
white shadow coming at you, and you can only see it when you do that. That is the boogeyman. It's not really the formal name for it, but the kids don't know what else to call it. And you might find it's right next to you when you do that.
I'm looking forward to modders just ripping the game apart and finding out that model and swapping it out for some wrestler at some point.
Yeah, it'll just be a texture of me like tiling and flipping them off.
Is there
We are talking about Match Striker's history as a
there is a publishing partner. At the moment, it's sort of at their discretion whether they want to disclose who they are and their involvement. We're sort of following up on that. But yes, we do have some very great connected this time around, and we're very grateful for it. But at the moment, I think they're always deciding how they want to announce
John
themselves.
delivers a kick to Drew, and then randomly decides to remove his belt.
Like a
And for
right
what
game for
reason,
that idea.
too? Was his pants
I agree.
too tight? Was he
Yes,
intending to do
we haven't
something
talked about an
sexual
exact
to
date
Drew?
for that yet, but there is something powerful
Did he just say
about
Scott drop?
the unsafe feeling people have going into an early access game, and we would like to harvest that one way or another.
That's a shame.
On a tactical level, order level, just everything. All right.
What about
the studio? Are you guys working remotely? Are you in the studio right now for Question, or what is the actual studio
I'm
look
going to
like?
kill you, face. The
It's
reason
about half and half.
is because that
the
makes me
release of the
piss
Magic
myself.
Circle, we have doubled in size from 3 to 6, plus
Tell that to
a
Sting in
number of satellite
2016 when he gets
contractors who have
inducted into the
just
WWE
miracle
Hall of
workers
Fame
for
after
us.
only being in
We're still working
WWE
with
for a
Patrick
year and a half.
speaking of one of those contractors who does all the audio for the game and for the teaser trailer that you might have seen. And we have David Pittman on, who did Eldritch, and who was an indie, a sort of indie guru before we even broke away from Triple A. And so we're now at
Jersey
folks,
Shore.
3 of whom are in-house, and 3 of whom are remote.
Layla in almost every title match she has.
A sweet spot for you in wing element? Do you feel like there's something magical in this arena?
Also, Match Striker's cheerleader.
Yes,
He obviously doesn't know how to do a
we might
commentary job.
expand someday to be like terrifying 10, but I wouldn't want to go much larger than that because
We're not
I know everyone's individual
show, and the biggest
approach, and
championship is going to be
not
defended next.
entirely unlike being these sort of team friends together till the end. Like it feels a little bit like that same kind of band that you had at BFF.
And so he's the boogeyman in the game industry.
The music cut before you could do your pose at the right moment.
I'll tell you what, I'll go with Jonaman Nordhagen. He's going to be releasing the game at the same day that we're announcing
a little late.
my nemesis now. We're actually very good friends. He's the guy who's doing Where the Water Tastes Like Wine.
Of course. Did you figure that out all by yourself, Matt?
Good deal. I mean, so what was the release of Magic Circle like for you? I mean, you doubled in size, so it must have been successful on some fronts. What was that whole process like once actually you got it out the door?
Yeah, the main thing it proved out was our ability to complete things. The Magic Circle was not a financial success by any means. We survived, and we did well enough that we're still here, but it was a sobering lesson about the changing shape of the indie game industry. If you're going to do a short, narrative-driven game, you better be very confident in its sort of mainstream appeal. And we were doing something frankly for us, and we learned a lot from that, and it was very cathartic and helped us sort of
he pretty much puts himself
frankly stop rooting. It was a comedy. It was a very sort of meta, silly thing about an unfinished game being finished by you from the outside. And we learned a lot, and we now trust each other implicitly, and that is why we're taking so much type of risk here with Blackout Club.
I mean, to what level are you talking about? Stopping
any time appropriate for
matter
how my hands
shifting environments for the type of game that you're making, or literally like just find myself
what an idiot
about the game industry so much. I need to make games, get that out of my system.
Yeah, I totally see dozens of tables surrounding the ring and the stage area.
Bioshock prior to working on the Magic Circle, and Bioshock, as much as I dearly love them, have a reputation for being a little self-serious.
Doing a
and so Magic Circle was the other end of the spectrum, where it sort of said, okay,
That's
the kimono is
I call
open.
bullshit
Look at
on
how
this decision by the
broken
referee,
all of these
because the rules
elements
say
of
that
the
a
game
competitor has to
people
put his
making
opponent
them can be,
offensively through a table.
and it was an
Someone
opportunity
putting
for us to
themselves
sort
through
of
the
make
table
fun of
doesn't count.
ourselves and
And
our
now this has nothing to do with who I was rooting for.
Are you happy with the way it was received?
I just stated the rules here because John,
going back to one of the earliest questions, people just too easily were like, "Oh, this is a game about bashing Tim Levine." I think
Reigns winning the title so quickly
I
after being in
did
the
certainly
WWE
hear that, and that's part of the reason why Ken did a voice
What do you
for
say
us in
about
the game.
Sheamus,
Is,
who
you know,
won it after
we're
only being in WWE
and
for
he so
5
graciously
months?
said, like, sure, I get the joke. Like, and so he was actually an HR guy in a few audio logs. So, you know, that kind of knee-jerk, you know, we sort of laughed it off because at the end of the day, we put nothing in that game that we ourselves were not guilty of, and that was a
John picking up a
creative
piece
choice.
of a broken table,
But it did feel good to just sort of laugh at some of the tropes associated with video games and game development.
Chairs match. I'll be honest, the idea of a chairs match
way to
is
move on
pointless unless there's a special way to win it.
to break away
Make
from
the rule like
series
the first
that big in
superstar
your
to
life.
get
I'd
hit in
imagine
the face with
and
a
we
chair
people write
loses
into
or
the
something.
podcast all the time.
Oh wait,
are
chair shots to the
colossal
head or
fans about Shock 2.
Well, then I'll just send the existence of this match stipulation
Is
and
it just
move
a
on.
daily basis for you with people tweeting at you saying,
Whoa, Jerry just said WWF and somehow they get suspended and or fired.
Well, I'll tell you that, yes, 10 years after it would have salvaged my fragile creative director ego, it's nice to hear. I have heard people much more sympathetic to it years later. I think simply by virtue of the fact that it was made by a new studio in 2 years, it had a little bit of that sort of
any body part that has taken the most
1.5
damage in
feel,
wrestling
and
events
people
these
at the
days
time
is the hands.
believed they wanted something entirely new. But I nearly broke myself for that game, and so I'm proud of what we were able to accomplish in the time.
Yeah, I mean,
Undertaker
I
just
read
went
somewhere that
into
you
the
had
stairs
very
and you
clear
question
rules
if he
that
drinks
have to
more
stay in
milk.
Rapture.
The fuck is
2 years
wrong
to
with
ship
you
this game
guys?
needs multiplayer. Is that just the Rapture thing
Wrestler
specifically?
tosses
Is that just a
chair
matter
or
of art
sometimes
assets
several
and
chairs into
the
the ring
production
and giving
cycle?
weapon choices to everyone involved in
It
the
was a
match.
combination, yes. Technology and art assets that
Actually, a
absolutely
fan
told we're
shouting
going to
stop
need to
it today.
reuse some
Yeah,
art.
like that was shown. Whoever
And
that fan was is a
the art
stupid idiot.
done by the Irrational folks, I was there for that game too,
Are you fucking
was
kidding
so
me?
solid that
Undertaker
it
has to
was
break a submission hold in a goddamn chairs
it was
match.
kind
There
of
are no
a parameter
disqualifications
that
or
I chased
countouts in
against a
this
little bit,
match.
but on the other
So
hand,
why
I deeply
the
love
fuck
Rapture.
does Undertaker have to break
after
the
doing
whole
Frolic in the
rope
first
breaks
game,
are
I thought,
irrelevant
okay,
when it
well,
comes to submissions in
people
these
like
types of
the
matches.
surreal elements, people like the sort of nightmarish elements, what if I
All
those,
and all of that kick
that
out. So
horror
anything the referee
sort
should
of
have
DNA
given out.
has always been there for me. I'll always work on the most horrific element of any of the games that I've been involved with,
Since
and
there are no
so
disqualifications
honestly,
in the
the
chairs
Blackout
match,
Club,
they
it feels
deliver
like
a
coming
low blow to Undertaker
a
is
vulnerable
illegal.
protagonist to be able to say like, no, you're not a
So much for the chair shots to the head is illegal in the
walking
PG era.
tank with a magic hand and a gun hand and a head full of bad ideas. You're just a kid
You are
trying to
restarting
survive.
this match because Dave
Even
delivered a
though
low blow,
the system
which may I
allow you
remind
to
you
express
is
yourself,
legal
you're
in a
kind
match
of like
with no
having to take
disqualifications.
what would
I know a
be
low blow never
the
seems
gun hand
fair,
and magic
but if
hand
a match with
Bioshock
no
game
disqualifications,
become
then
that
it's not
much. You have to
cheating.
combine
I call
yourself with
major
your friends
bullshit
to
on Teddy Long
achieve
making that
the sort of
despicable
desired
call
effect.
by adding 10 cents to this event.
Yeah, I mean, so specifically the Lovecraftian horrors, which are interesting. I mean, does that just rule out jump scares? What level of fear are you trying to install on players throughout the game?
That is, man, I'm glad you asked that, because I wouldn't have come to it on my own, but it rules out jump scares almost entirely that we script in a manipulative fashion. We have designed systems
Randy is delivering some devastating shots to Kofi's ribs, and the commentators find themselves
way back in
questioning the
time.
flow for
We've designed systems that sort of lean on some of the stuff that I was doing back in Deep 3 with a spooky asylum mission called the Shellbridge Cradle, where
how that crossbody was impressive. Randy was starting to fall before Kofi
natural systems interacting and player decisions. So,
other than lifting up his arm to
in
block
the Blackout Club, for
Kofi could have
example,
easily just back out of the
if
way.
you happen to close your eyes at the right time, you can see this sort of boogeyman shape right next to you and have a jump scare
does a great
that's
job as general
100%
manager. However, in this
natural
case, I
product
feel
of the
like
sort
he
of
deserves the
ecosystem.
chair
And
shot
our
after restarting a
producer
chair match because of a legal
Michael Kelly
Not
recently was recording a playthrough video where he closed his eyes at exactly that moment. He had a syringe in his hand with ammunition with a tranquilizer
lazy to get
crossbow.
everything set up before
and the shape was right there, and he just started screaming in front of the entire office and stabbing in his face, and of course something pounced it. But it was legendary, and like we had no specific engineering of that moment. It wasn't a scripted here at all.
Is it more fun to design a co-op game just because playing it over and over again is more variety? Do you feel like the game is still somewhat energized by playtesting this thing?
No, it's not. And they will become more so as we integrate more into sort of procedural elements. Our big goal is to surprise ourselves with the content. So, as long as the combination of the room that you're being asked to visit for an objective sake, the twist on the objective, and the challenges you know along the way, just our code, we feel like it's got legs for players who are willing to invest lots of hours. And so, yes, those moments are what we live for these days, and I hope to make Matches stream many more times that I remember that there are tables involved in this match.
So I'm trying to think of how people are going to frame this game.
One of the worst in WWE history because tables rarely got involved, if at all.
But people are just like, okay, so it's kind of a Left 4 Dead meets
move down to the way, letting Sean take the fall through the table, and then I would say 100% accurate. Certainly an internal touchstone. You know, as far as the gameplay experience, it's sort of a first-person cooperative horror game centered around this group of teenage friends investigating a monstrous secret beneath the skin of their town. And from there, Hunter and Sean went through a lot of the sort of applied tools and techniques will become obvious. Then they got put through a damn table outside the ring and recover from all that in only 45 seconds.
Having kind of the DM in this game, kind of the more asymmetrical
no one recovers from all that in just 45 seconds. Oh my god, yes, constantly. Like, I basically am always thinking, where can we integrate where you see the sort of battle match, you see the managers go on, but people say, you guys don't have the first place. No, those kids were not born. That victory. Not 105 cents, but only because of teamwork as this match itself. I'm sure we'll have to keep it sort of liminal matches I've seen.
Yeah, so I mean, did you go down that road at all of having any sort of control from the design? Do you feel like that has been done more in the industry in the last couple of years, so it's less interesting?
Honestly, I will never sort of lose my love for the dungeon crawl. Like, Darkest Dungeon is a game that in many ways changed my life. I put more hours into that one than I could think of, and no other procedural game ever sort of connected with me on that level. And that is horror meets the dungeon crawl. You know, in the Blackout Club, our specific sort of gesture towards that is the growth system, the sort of major and minor powers that you earn through play, and the combos and upgrades in which make your specific teenage investigator much more potent.
The narrator doesn't even announce what worked from the year of 2010 in the WWE.
In our game stores. So I think it has, you know, RPG, tattoos on its back, and you have to sort of spend a little time with it.
Since I have right now, because this edition of TLC is the only TLC event where every single match, with the exception of an impromptu tag team title match, was contested with one of the TLC stipulations. And that is the perfect idea for this
thinking about a lot while developing this game. There's certain lessons.
Trying to make it seem like winning Slammy Awards is like winning the Oscars. Only difference between those two is the Slammys are nothing but a parody name of the Grammys.
Well, the practical reality
Kofi Kingston decided to come out while the ring announcer was making introductions.
Like, this is unsexy, but just
you've said that twice already.
That brought us to, okay, this game
Michael
is
thinking Jerry Lawler would believe he's kidding when he's asked for his opinion on how to strategize for a ladder match.
Always more interesting than a canned AI.
And now we have malfunctioning lights on the stage early on.
The adventure goes on for as long as you want it to, and as we update the game, the likely has one too. You don't see the single scripted cutscene, and then you expend into content. That is the main thing that we
commentary was dedicated to either insulting Vicky Guerrero or Michael Cole, dissing pretty much
creative level. I've wanted to do modern horror since 2005 or 6. The universe that this takes place in, I developed way back then. It just evolved over time. It has, you know, we talked about Lovecraft. It has a very
Michael interfered in this WWE title TLC match
slightly crazy-making ethos at its heart, and we will only ever reveal parts of that to you.
Kofi should have just watched Vicky until she won the championship, then took it from her, and voila!
Setting because all of my other games have been either, you know, sort of quasi-medieval steampunk or period pieces like Bioshock.
Yeah,
honestly, even if
definitely.
Jack never released the whole, Kofi wouldn't be close enough to reach the title anyway, and extending his leg, which is
one
increasing the
segment
pressure
in
of
a
the
modern, cool, like neighborhood environment.
So apparently, after getting knocked off the ladder to the ground 20 seconds ago, Dom somehow got himself rejuvenated and quickly fought for this championship.
Good relationship
Also,
with those guys,
and someone winning a ladder match without winning the prize
any of their RPG projects.
Do they hear themselves when they talk?
Ubisoft San Francisco specifically?
Yes, you did, Michael.
Ubisoft San Francisco, but specifically South
the only commentator who's actually interested in talking about the pay-per-view itself rather than continuous argument.
And my relationship has really continued mainly with the South Park
like it has been for
studio.
the last 6 months. So why does the Nexus need to be reminded of that?
Well,
I was originally excited about the idea of the Divas competing in a table match, but then remembered that this would not be hardcore at all.
2K game.
What do you know? I was right not to be excited.
Nevada, and amicably noted, hey, you shifted, so thank you.
Disgusting and horrifying thing to look at. And
there was some time to wait while
whether anyone
Steven
likes it or
Alexander
not.
was moving out from Boston,
WWE
and he and I worked together on Battle Grounds 1 and wanted to start the studio, but in the meantime,
at all.
an old friend who had worked with Ubisoft previously put us in contact with Ubisoft SF, and they said, okay, look, like, we have so many cool elements.
Trying to stupidly say we want tables chat in a freaking
writer and television
when there are obviously tables
and
all
also
over the
speak
place.
game person to sort of help bridge the two
Jerry Lawler says he
development
never
groups
saw
for
a
that
woman
game.
go through a table.
And
must have forgotten about the
they
time Mae Young got
apparently
power
liked what I had to
table by
say
the
because
boys.
we've continued to work together since.
Watch it here.
That's somehow didn't see that coming, which is bullshit because I know
We've been
that
working
they
together for
blind.
years and years, and then for you to come in, and imagine that
Jerry,
takes a lot of confidence to say, all right, Matt,
match. It's just
here's
a
what you need
table
to know. I know that I'm not somebody you've been working with for years.
A slingshot toss on both arms of leg rules. Natalia decides to waste time with a sharpshooter that would never win a
It would
table
have been,
match.
except that they're big gamers. You know, I don't want to speak for them, but I've always felt that that was easier than everyone imagined it would be, simply because they were versed in the language of games and they cared about the thing being a functional and interesting game experience first.
Softest tables matches I have ever seen.
Deliver on their end of it.
Yeah, I mean, but is it an overall lesson of just because you're a gamer doesn't mean you're a great game designer?
Privacy, man.
I think so. I mean, they would probably be the first to say that they learned a lot across both games, and I've always been impressed with
best in the
degree to which they are willing to
Han Solo and Chewbacca challenge you to.
You know what they have, their original kind of ignorance about this or that concept, and what they can do with it now.
Justin Gabriel to fans
each game they work on.
Matt refers to him as the one on the right with the beard. When Husky Harris is
just
on the right, who also has a beard.
For a reason, so you say, yeah.
There is
Come on,
that.
Jerry. It wasn't
Do you have
funny
any
even
sense
when
of
Santino called him
South Park Studios' perception towards practical cultural
Ever since John Cena made fun of
I
Pete
don't.
Slater
I mean,
by referring to him as
sense
the
of,
Wendy's girl, I've had a craving for Wendy's every time there's a Wendy's chat.
very
And now
proud.
I'm ready for Wendy's.
And the last time that we sort of spoke about Fracture was right before shit.
Santino's back,
So,
and then they tagged
we're
So
you know,
does that
casual
mean
contact
Santino
and
was the
stuff like
legal
that.
man?
But they
Wasn't,
I think
now
the
he is
biggest
again?
thing they were proud of was how much more coherent it was. I think as they talked about before, the original game was
the actual
really
entertaining
big,
matches with the
like Skyrim
stipulations that we
and
can see.
there were much editorial choices made to bring it in smaller. Whereas this superhero story was
assaulting
fairly
everyone. I fall
crystallized
asleep
early on. They knew what the beginning, middle, and end
What
looked
just
like.
happened 2 minutes ago? In other words, fuck
especially
you.
sick of that story by the end of it. But
Holy shit, that's the second ladder match in a row with the
wasn't drawn
Russell's
out
music
over the same
interrupted the
amount
ring
of time
announcer.
either. You know,
Sheamus is
I think there was a certain.
It's a
I think
horrible
they
looking
had
outfit.
learned.
King Booker pulled it off very well.
Here
Sheamus,
are the places
not so
where we
much.
have blown cold on story elements in the past, and then they locked them down early and said,
Every
like, okay,
wrestler on
these
the
are our
roster
pillars.
before the show goes on the air.
If we change details around the story,
I sucked with this wrestler over the past 5 years.
even RPGs going into the future.
John Morrison thinking it's a good idea to
that's a
turn
good question. I'm
Sheamus.
definitely not going to answer that one.
John's intention
about how much
was to throw Sheamus off the top rope. Did he have to sacrifice himself
for them or maybe
for a
for
small
teams
move like
overall?
that?
Was there an epiphany or two along the way for you?
The only king in the WWE is Vince McMahon.
The core
Sheamus is just the king of
absurdity
the ring.
at the heart of
Doesn't feel like a great
systems
accomplishment
interacting
anymore.
with a human
Sheamus literally stands
will
around with that
always
ladder for
be a
about
source of
7
unexpected
seconds
humor,
doing
and
nothing
so if
instead
you
of
could
putting it in the
lean
ring
into
to try
that
and
as opposed
climb
to
it.
sort
What
of
are you
like
waiting for, dude?
placing a big leap
I see
over
why
it, trying to ask the
Sheamus
player to
debated
look away
on
from it.
climbing this ladder. And so that I put
Some
the
of the
first ladder
most
introduced this
powerful
to
sort of laughs
surprise
come
cliche
from
on John.
acknowledgement that the player is always kind of
Great
smirking
move by
at your
John.
gaminess,
It's always fun to see an
and you
action
can
in
embrace
ladder
that
matches.
I think
Morrison is an idiot. From his position, there's no way he'd be able to reach the contract. Why put the ladder closer to the corner than the prize?
One of the jokes we collaborated on in The Stick of Truth was a fellow who was leaving audio logs in a spaceship-like sequence, and by the end, he's like, the only thing that there is to eat is audio logs.
I call bullshit on that. Seamus is more powerful than John.
I was involved with that. Wasn't very happy with the ladder.
I still don't know how he could possibly lose
What extent, in that specific case, that is one of the highlights of Stick of Truth. Audio, like, to what extent were you involved in? Is it a matter of writing down some of the idea of seeing the audio log experts easily weighing in on certain tropes?
I was in the writing room, and they work with a lot of other writers who are in the room, but the truth is that, like, I am not going to teach them how to suck eggs. Like, they always deliver the final script like that.
It's become a common thing in almost every ladder match from this
something
point
that
forward.
really
And
helps
most of
out
the time, it's
when
not
looking at
impressive.
the games you worked on Harry Potter.
It's great that John got to be the number one contender
Oh, wow.
for the WWE
Jeez,
Championship,
all right, now
but at the same
you're
time,
going
he
back
deserved
even
an actual
further.
ring with that title.
Yeah, we're going to keep going back till
And
eventually
watching
you're
this
just a
victory,
child.
I
It's
feel
really
like
all going to
he
work
actually
out. We're
won the
around like a
title,
13,
which is
16-year-old age, of course. But so with the Harry Potter game,
You're actually asking The Miz,
your most
the WWE champion, a
sales-wise
stupid
game
question
ever.
like that.
I was looking at like
Josh Matthews
one
actually
sales
believed
charts
that
a while
Miz
ago.
would say, oh, Randy Orton will likely be the
What the hell?
champion.
This is like the
So,
seventh
he's an idiot.
most high-selling PlayStation 1 game of all time. It's just unthinkable.
Yeah,
This is
now,
actually foreshadowing the
there is
return of the
a
Rock,
point of
which
clarity,
ironically
because I
takes
worked on
place
the
a
PC
couple of months
version, so I think
after
the answer is no. I think that Bioshock eventually outsold the PC version of Harry
going to kill the
Potter,
legend of
which
my
was built by a
opponent,
company
even though
called
that's
Amaze
impossible to do in
Entertainment,
one
where I had
single
my
match
first
cliche.
design gig. It was still
Husky
wildly successful, and way more so than anything I would work on for
Husky
years.
during the time that John Cena got to annihilate the rest of Texas. Also, how the hell did nobody hear this unseen annihilation from anywhere? Did the Nexus isolate themselves in a room far away from any civilization?
Unreal Ed and teach me how to respond to feedback without,
In case you didn't hear me say that
tiny
3 times
ego
previous,
shatter.
or the ring announcer giving out the
and,
rules to this match.
It gave me. I met Ben Gola.
The second time that Michael
brilliant
Cole has
designer
announced how many
who's
countries
an
are watching
hero
this
of the
pay-per-view
game
event,
industry.
and he repeats a lot of the same countries too.
Basically, I think he redeemed me from becoming a terrible adventure game
No
designer.
argument about who's the better
I probably
wrestler.
would have gone into just hand-drawn art and a few dialogue
Cole would be great at Cinema
without
Sins
that
2 expansion. Understandable that the referee wants to keep
How did
Alex
it?
Riley
How
away
was
from
you?
the
Where did
action.
you scale
But
back?
to be honest,
Matter if
Alex
you got
can
on the
do
project
whatever he wants at ringside
blow it
because
out
there's no
and
disqualifications in a tables match.
Thinking that you
So
could
what
kind
can the referee
fight off
really
when
do
you
in
can
this
shoot.
case if there aren't any
I
rules
did
regarding
research.
outside
I read
interference?
those books because of that game, but I did enjoy them once I
Even if Alex did not put the table back underneath the ring, this match would still be going because Randy Orton set up the table.
If I'm honest, there's probably DNA going all the way back to there for the knockout stuff. But
As annoying as Michael is during this event, he actually does bring up good points, just like I did.
systems that let you do whatever you want, or at least purported to do whatever you
So let
want,
me get
where
this
you've got
straight.
kind of a chemistry
Jerry
set,
thinks the
and you can
fans
find
will be
them
proud of
making
a
it go
champion who
your
doesn't
way.
win matches on his own. So if
Harry Potter
he's
did not
actually
have room to do
condoning the
anything.
Miz's
It was a
title
puzzle
reign,
game where you
cheering
did
him
this
on.
and this and this, and it allowed you to the next step. I definitely walked out of that feeling I never wanted to work on that
That
kind of
was
thing
the first
again.
time the Miz had ever ran down the stairs, not the second.
Hence my time on at Iron Vermont with Beef Series and on to Bioshock.
Yeah. I mean, the chemistry set idea. And it wasn't until Breath of the Wild, I feel like we're fully tackled in a giant way, maybe.
Yeah, and now it's coming from the other side of the globe. That's the sort of glory of Breath of the Wild. It feels like, Westerners cannot claim the immersive sim anymore. They're all over the place, and arguably,
It's precious time and momentum putting
play a lot of
Alex through the table, which ends up
I watched my wife play a lot of Breath of the Wild. I have taken a vow not to play anything single player, because not only does it focus me back on multiplayer games, but my friends are very busy, and it helps me manage my time. So I'm playing the hell out of Divinity Original Sin with Ken Strickland, who I worked with on Crash the Whole. And I play Darkest Dungeon with my son. But I always have to have a ride along. And so far,
the fact that Miz pushed Alex into Randy to the table, that actually qualifies the victory from the outside interference is always a sin.
way, shape, or form.
well, officially, it's Q1 of 2019. That is our official release date. Like you said, this game is right for early access, so there may be some other announcements along the way, but that's what we can commit to.
question would be, how the hell did you get on my car and start bouncing on the seats without being hurt or
we've got a very good friend with whom we'd like to do a first playable
Alberto
sort
Del Rio
of
actually believes that
announcement where you
Christian
can see
is
real
still in a
gameplay
hospital after he
for
injured
the
him
first
3
time.
months
And
previous. Or
exactly when that's
Toro
happening,
muscle,
we
nobody
can't
would
reveal
still
just
be in the
yet, but I'm
hospital
hoping
for
not too
3
long.
months.
It's playable early, as a lot of good multiplayer games have to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people are interested in following the game, where should they go? Their Twitter accounts.
Copyright infringement.
Yes, so there is the Blackout Club is our Twitter account, and they can also go to www.blackoutclubgames.com, and you can find us there, and you can also follow me at NullSpeak on Twitter if you want. I will sometimes say things with the official account.
I personally think they should have stayed with the
that's what I
original
got.
plan. That way we'd have 2 of these stipulations in TLC before the next TLC match. Also,
Thanks so much for watching and listening to this
TLC,
episode of
the
the
TLC
Show
match
Podcast.
itself is not the main event, which no matter who's competing in the actual main event, is a dumb decision to make it an event named literally after that match. What? Gain custody of the title? So these 4 wrestlers are going to fight in a courtroom for the custody of the championship, as if that title was the kid of a newly divorced couple? What the freaking fuck? Rated Gene Simmons Mysterio. Rodriguez was that teleported Alex considering he appears out of nowhere almost every time.
Okay, number 1.
Jerry's
the trailer that had
Joseph
Ray
involving Alberto Ricardo.
Yeah, is Ray in the game? I think they are.
Blah, 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 blah.
It looks like Rex.
No Mercy in 1990. Oh, bullshit. No, it didn't. The first TLC match took place at SummerSlam in 2000.
How did they explain that alone?
No Mercy event. Matt, are you referring to the tag team ladder match that took place in No Mercy? Because that was not a TLC match. You say you're a former school teacher who knows all the facts. Jason Ray sitting on the top of the ladder. He can't reach the prize on the ladder that will reach the title. Try standing on the top next time, man. Or somehow find a big ladder. Kane must love falling down for no reason, alright? Alberto never done a day's work in his life whatsoever. He'd have 3 times more fat on his body. I'm just saying.
Okay,
this is a TLC match. It feels like just a ladder match, considering the ladders are the only weapons that have come into play at all for over half the match itself.
So like you learn at the
just
end.
like the Miz.
It's
Kane
not like a
also
house
sucks at trying to set up tables.
Details the future? Right. So
I would
it's
have given Ray and
I don't
Alberto
know
a double
if it's
shot
like the
to the
alternate
table.
future,
If anything, that assists Edge's chances of winning the match with 2 of the 4 wrestlers taken out of the equation.
Okay, so
Earlier, Edge told Alberto that teaming up on Kane would be the worst strategy in the world, and you would know considering he's the master of the TLC. Yeah, look who starts the 3-on-1 assault on Kane's strategy.
Hang on, am I gonna have to play Metal Gear Survive? This sounds pretty good.
No, don't do it.
So commentator remarks that all 2 wrestlers in this match are longtime friends, so we even give a shit. Cliche. Don't engage in for this, but then remember that Edge is back on the Kane's area.
Does it look like the game in the Death Stranding trailer?
And besides, not all crashes through tables are worse sin removers.
So at some point you're like, okay, we have to figure out how to kill this thing. And it turns out that
turn around into the spirit, most of all perfect timing. State of the obvious 24/7.
And so at some point you realize that one of the world
Kane is addicted to Edge, rated R superstars.
So you send off.
What the hell is Edge going? You're supposed to be the master of TLC matches, so you would know that running away from the action doesn't help you win the world title.
Well, no, you find them in eBay. And you're like, I don't know how I got here.
Himself, considering if Kane didn't grab him, he would have missed completely.
It's super convenient storytelling where at the end, like,
Ray clearly saw Edge holding a chair, but decided to risk it into 619 anyway, knowing full well that he'd be injured his own legs
from the
Ray set up a ladder that was never
and
allowed
now
to
I'm
reach
back.
the world
So I
title,
went
no
back
matter
in
how
time
high he
to try to
climbs.
help you guys.
Even if Edge and Alberto have already occupied the first ladder, Ray didn't just grab a ladder to someone was saying, I just set a cabin size.
The entire box is like
let's space plan together on the ring canvas at the same time. You mark,
and at the
get
end,
set,
fires
go.
a railgun that the Hollanders had.
Yay, I win!
Is Gordon Dust like a
Shane's about to say that.
Is it a creature or is it like a robot?
Cheerleading, Jerry.
No, it's a giant,
actually
like,
believes he can reach the world title that far away from it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's a fantastic piece. Here's where you find it.
fatal driver. Honestly, yeah, I want short neither Kane nor the Undertaker should ever
What are
attempt
there
to
any other
kill
cool
the
like Metal Gear
pile
Solid
driver,
tidbits that we
as he's
know
too small to make it look
I didn't
realistic.
see that many. I know. I think there was one.
We had ladder spanking earlier, and now we have chair spanking.
Like, here's how this ties into the rest of the
Edge has defined his legacy like countless times a year. After all the successes he's had, his legacy has already been defined. Ceiling cam, what the fuck is this? A random, useless, and impromptu promo that does absolutely nothing for anyone in the back future. Not for Dash and Cody Rhodes, and not for Santa Claus Big Show. We just went through the signature match of the event's name, still have one more match to go, and instead we'll waste our time with this.
A way out. And so, Reeve,
grooming.
do you have a big character moment?
You can't physically put Rhodes
like
into
all the
a
characters.
stocking, Cody.
They're not good. And then the other thing is that, like,
fuck
as
you.
these
That's one of the most
format
overused
changes,
lines in
you'll say,
Houston
like, oh,
history.
there's a large creature detective that you need to go fight.
What's my
And so
line?
there are Monster Hunter style bosses where you fight this giant thing called Big Mouth,
system.
and it's like this like 10-minute, 15-minute long boss fight where you have to whittle away at itself. And like that's
Holy
like,
shit,
that's a
I
cool
skipped to
thing,
something
but
else I gotta
it
skip.
sounds like big creature. Yeah, it's like this
Santa
big
Show
sort of
might have
Monster
killed
Hunter
someone by tossing that DVD
fight
Death by Knucklehead.
Right.
Never thought I'd ever say that. Also, this is the equivalent of Santa giving out things to the naughty kids. When you're not being nice on Christmas, Santa gives you a copy of the greatest abomination of a WWE Studios film ever to exist.
It's not like a giant big boss.
Go fuck yourself.
So it's like that's one interesting.
I bet Michael didn't even get a gift from certain shows from that DVD runner to the right of where Michael was sitting.
So like in terms of
promo can't get any worse. Even at a WWE pay-per-view, we gotta endure shit like this.
Alright, well thanks for staying.
Almost seems like Big Show is talking to Christian Miracle.
Be sure to come to Colton Brewery on March 3rd.
Big Show promoting teeth cavities.
And tell us what you think of the Alright, thanks everybody. Bye. Wait, that's the Netflix show. Not that one. Okay, bye.
How would you know? Shrek doesn't exist.
Oh, wait a minute. Big Show, hang on, pal.
This went from boring to nauseating to